You don't want to hear that.
Good evening, councillors. Anyone attending via Zoom? I open the meeting at 5:30 p.m. The meeting is being live streamed via Zoom webinar facilities, and recordings of the council meetings, parts thereof, cannot be copied, recorded, reused or retransmitted without the prior written consent of the general manager. The meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on the council website, and persons attending the meetings should refrain from making any defamatory statements. Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional land of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people, and respects the history and culture of elders both past and present. I'll call the Reverend Johnny Lush to make a prayer.
Thanks, councillors, for having me. Let's pray. Our loving Father, we thank you for the freedoms that we enjoy in our great country, Australia. As we gather here this evening, we're particularly thankful for the freedoms in our political process. We thank you for our wonderful town of Oberon, for its beauty, for the friendly, loving community we enjoy, and for the opportunity that our town brings for all to call it home. We thank you for the rain over the past few days and ask that you will continue to bless our farmers with more. We bring before you each of our town's elected councillors this evening. We thank you for their commitment to serving our town and our people. Bless each one as they fulfil their commitment to this office. In your strength, might they govern with honesty and integrity. We ask your blessing on this meeting this evening. The decisions will be made in the best interests of our town and its thriving, which is ultimately under your care. Give all those present here the wisdom and discernment they need for all that needs to be achieved this evening. We ask for all these things in the name of Jesus, our Saviour. Amen.
Thank you very much. Regular attendance, the Kay Councillor Graham is attending via Zoom as she is not feeling particularly well. I hope you're okay, Katie.
Yeah, it's I can hear you, but it's a bit muffled.
If anyone sees Councillor Graham trying to get my attention, please bring it to my attention so I don't miss their name. There are no leave of absence. Any declarations of interest? None. I made got one, the confirmation of minutes for the ordinary meeting of the 20th of June 2023. Can I have a movement for that? Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move those minutes.
To second those. Thank you.
Anyone with any other comments? I'll take the motion. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 9.1. Sorry. 8.2, sorry. And item 8.2 is confirmation of the minutes of an extraordinary meeting held on the 4th of July 2023. Recommendation is the minutes for the ordinary meeting be held on the 4th of July 2023 be confirmed. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Tucker. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move those minutes. Nothing further to add.
Anyone else? Motion, all those in favour? Motion is passed. Right. Need a moment, catch up. Right, item 9.1, which is the mayoral minutes. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Greenbart.
Thank you very much. Great report this month. Nothing further to add.
Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I was just wondering about the feedback with the Oberon Health Council Committee and what the outcome of that may have been with regard to some of the community members having issues with being doctors and stuff. How did the meeting go?
I brought it up at the meeting, and it was passed on to the chair who took it up, who advised that particular person about how the claim process works. And helped them with that on understand. I also wrote back to that particular correspondent, explaining the difference between medical centre and the doctors that work there versus doctors. Hopefully, has that understanding. And there are some other issues being addressed separately.
Thank you. The only other one was the Honourable Steve Canberra on the 20th of July regarding the small cell tower upgrade on completed.
That's been superseded by the latest email, which came from Telstra 3 or 4 days ago. Basically saying that they're in negotiations with the landowner to put the small cell tower up on a particular block of land, which is suitable.
Nothing further.
Oh, thank you for that. Third of the way down, page 40, same sort of issue. When you met with the Tuglow Landcare Group, re the black spot area, what was the outcome of that? And did the federal member and the Telstra person manage to give any assistance to them in alleviating the black spot? That's the way to put it.
It was an interesting meeting. There were 19 residents who met with us underneath the Tudor Hill Fire Tower. Andrew G was there, the guy from Telstra and NBN were there as well, and myself. At the end of the day, it was pointed out that the chances of getting us a mobile tower there in the next 3 years is very limited. Explain why. Although that area would qualify to get a tower based upon now traffic goes through there, the remoteness and other than I can't remember what the criteria was. There are also several hundred other places that have the same criteria. What they did explain was that in many ways, the need for a tower will be over in 3 years' time, may not even be an issue. The guys from Telstra are saying at the moment, Apple, for example, has a direct handset satellite ability for emergency messaging, and that is being broadened to texting, normal texting, and in 3 to 5 years' time, it handsets sitting on our desk here, will be able to communicate with low orbit satellites, and so that was the future. Now, whether that's 3 or 5 years is another matter. But the chances of a small cell tower being put up there are very, very limited indeed.
I'm going to ask, I note that both Optus and Telstra have made arrangements with Starlink, which is a good thing.
It's and of course, at the moment, Starlink is the other option.
For phone or only for internet?
It's fine. You can do it. Yeah, if it's on the internet, you can use the
Mobile,
internet profile. VoIP. If you're on the internet, you can use it, and then VoIP.
Oh, yes, you can use it in the house, so you can use it out in the field as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Internet.
You've got a handset. That's totally.
Think that if I could also, on the 19th of July, third of the way down the next page, the correspondence forwarded to Gavin Jeffries following up information about proposed wind power project, and no response was received. Was there anything further that Mr. Jeffries said over and above what he said in the presentation to us here some 2 months ago?
That follow-up email was about where we were with the, or where they were with the proponent. When might permits be issued? Will those people be required, whoever the proponents are, will they be required to have undertake community consultation? And he answered all of those questions very directly. And the answers are the proponents will be selected in either December or January, so over that Christmas New Year period. they're analysing the proposals from a variety of different energy companies at the moment. Once the proponents are given permits, they are required to undertake community consultation. Now, my next round of questions will be, what does that look like?
Yeah.
He also made a point about consultation with the council.
Sorry,
With the council,
all right.
not just the community itself, but us.
So the proponents will present to council in accompanied by forestry.
Well, that's the thing. At that point, the plan for forestry is, well, it's the energy companies who own this problem now, not us. So I find it to be slightly difficult to deal with.
So there's going to be a number of proponents, or just one proponent, is that, or that, or
There will be one for each area, is my understanding.
Right.
So by area, I mean, the Oberon Forest District, the orange one, Bondo and, Sunny Corner.
Okay, so Oberon, we will be dealing with one proponent for our area.
For our forest area, but of course that covers 2 LGA.
Yes. Okay, all right, thank you. And I note that there's been a lot of community concern, petitions, etc. on the last point on page 41. So is it intended that the regional senior card will be abolished, or is it just a foreshadow?
I believe it's one of the savings that the current state government has on the table. Whether I don't think it's a fact yet, but I think it's one of those things that is possible.
I noticed I walked into I don't know if anyone else had the experience. I walked into a petrol fuel station in Blaney the other day, and there were, petitions on the counter. It's fine, but other people having that.
Yeah. Well,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor, for that's very informative.
Anyone else? Albert Murch, all in favour? Eric? Item 10.1 has been withdrawn, is that correct? Thank you. Item 10.2, Town Improvement Fund legal advice. The motion is that the general manager respond to the following questions. Given that section 495(1) of the Local Government Act states that the special rate may not be used for the cost of domestic waste services, is it lawful for the Town Improvement Fund to be used for the bulk liquid collection? And 2, if this is lawful, why is section 495(1) not applicable in this situation? Mover, a seconder?
I didn't put it in as a motion, it was a question and it doesn't require a motion.
Well, it's down here as a motion, so you're moving it?
No, I'm not.
Not by the mover and a seconder? Motion left. There any other method of answering the question on the motion?
Through the chair, that the council staff have answered the question on a number of occasions. The council Parker wasn't happy with the answer, so he lodged this through the total meeting practice, which is a 3.14, which has to be done through a notice of motion. This is how it was presented.
Okay. Item 10.3, Lowe's Road. Motion is that council general manager ensure that funds are retained for hot mixing the road pavement for suitable loading from Albion Street roundabout to Lowe's Road to north of Gate 5, where Ball Panels levy is paid from. Where Ball Panels levy is paid from in the 23-24 year of the Tablelands Way project. Well, moving the seconder, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Tucker, Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, this arose after the statement from the
Director of Technical Services, that the funds mightn't be there to facilitate this. One of my concerns is that we get a great deal of revenue from this. The cost from the $4.25 million comes from the Tableland Way. I think that's the breakup of the 3-year project. I've seen in the back of the business paper that we get that. We get a levy from Pine Hills Quarry. We get a levy from Borg to this part. And I don't know what the other part of it is. There's something to do with, while the plant's under this construction, the manager has said that we get some other levy from Borg as well. But my main concern is that if we do something less than this, it won't be adequate. This has got a lot of pressure on this road, a lot of weight. Even when I come in tonight, there's a road train pulling out of Borgs. This is an alternative to, there's a shortage of people, and this is an alternative. They've got to use big, heavy vehicles to get their product out. So this was always spoken of being hot mixed. And I think we've got to ensure, the general manager's got to ensure that funds are there. And there's, even though we're carrying work out down on the other part, there's no reason why this project can be started as well. There's other contractors out there that can start this, or if there's drainage or things like that are needed, it could be started as well. It will all be done in parallel. So that's why I moved this motion, because I thought if we get to the end of the job and we find that we haven't got the money, well, it's a pretty poor thing. This levy, I was cranky today. I was on the phone yesterday and today. The levy from Borg is supposed to be submitted at the 1st of July, and it's still not submitted. So we don't know what funds are coming there, but by the time we get to the end of June next year, we've only got 2 lots of that commitment as well. So there's funding sources out there, but I can't see why these projects can't be run in parallel. Work been on the Tablelands Way further down is first class. Yes, they are. If we had that rain, there's not a run in the road. No, it's just a first class job. But you can be doing the other work up there as well. So I've moved this to make sure that we get this sealed. It's the only way to go with this heavy haulage area, and the levies have been paid to do that work.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Question first, on the first dot point from Councillor McCarthy, it says this was planned as an action. So I'd just like to check, is that correct? Was this always intended to be a part of that project? Was it included in the costings and the planning for that project?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. The original scope of the Tablelands Way did include it to that particular section of the factory to be AC or hot mixed. It's what's been referenced, but it always was discussed that if there was available funds or enough funds to the thing, because in the scope of works originally to be a Junco bitumen seal, preference to what Councillor McCarthy raises, of course, would be preferable to have an AC or a hot mix service now. The nominal thickness, of course, not necessarily be 200 millimetres, I think, which may have been a statement made by Councillor McCarthy, but however, it would take significant preparation of the base course or the undercarriage to then get a suitable formation for hot mix to be applied. So no, it's not in answer to your questions.
No, so it wasn't planned as a definite action, but just hoping that there would be enough funds to enable it to happen. Is that accurate?
Well, through the mayor again, certainly seeing how much funding is available at the end with a combination of potential from the contributions from Borg and all other businesses like Pine Hill, which are subject to contribution payments.
So that will be part of this costing and scope to be undertaken and a report provided to council as in the GM. When can we expect that report?
Through the chair, this is something that come to the table, so we have the time we can bring back a report to council.
But in the next month or two, I'm guessing.
Look, certainly as soon as I can.
Through the chair, as part of the Tablelands Way funding that council received, there was only a certain amount. Now, there is still not $4.2 million left in the account.
we were doing a project over 3 years, it was 2.3, 2.4, 2.3. Now, the way that the engineer has run that project is has some awareness of all the things that we have to take into consideration. And we will make every effort that we possibly can to make the road where there is substantial amount of heavy traffic on as sturdy and as strong as it possibly can be. Now, if that is AC, perfect. But we need to have it costing on that.
So this report presumably will give us information and dollars on how much has been spent and what's been completed so far,
That is the intention.
how much money is remaining and whether that's enough to complete the project as originally scoped, how much might be left over from that construction and how much might be available from the facility.
Correct.
That's all I need to, thank you.
Thank you, Sparrow, and I thank Councillor Tucker for his questions, because it's assisted me somewhat too. So I'm not certain how much we get from the levy from Bourke for Gate 5 and the Pine Hill Quarry Road levy. I'm assuming that a report would be so. I would be proposing an amendment with the council general manager come back to us with a report on the costings for undertaking hot mixing from Albion Street roundabout on Losemount Road to north of Gate 5. I think that's what you're suggesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
I suggested that in the notice of motion, I
Yep, that's
failed to bring someone over a good invite.
and come back with the costing and also provide the applicable funding sources, including the Borg levy and the Pine Hill Quarry Road levy, together with an estimated amount that, and that can be an estimated amount, bracket may be available from the Losemount Road work. It may be. I realise we can't get a finite figure.
You got to bracket, councillor.
Sorry?
You asked me when you got to bracket.
Well, I know that you can't give us a finite figure because you may say there could be 0 or could be.
I also can't ensure. I can't ensure that.
That's going to be there, yes. But that's why I'm saying you give us a range, north to 500,000, but at least we know the upper end. It's going to cost 800,000. We may have 0, we may have 500,000. But then we work out what, and then we have to work out whether we might do it ours, Anyway, at least that gives us something to work with. When do we finish? When will we know the finite figure? When do we finish Losemount Road?
Through the mayor, I'll certainly provide a report with the allowance made in that scope. Looking hoping to be by the end of this calendar year, if not in early 2024. So weather depending on the way it's going, certainly that's the way it's looking at this stage, but bring a report back again with that avalanche way allowance, plus again, with suggested for living money.
So this is the question, Darren, not to go on, but are we better off then to get this report at the end of the year? Do we need it absolutely now? Well, if we had the report at the end, I think it's better to have the report at the end of the year or January when we're in a better position to know. So I'm quite happy to say range and that report be provided in the December 2023 meeting.
The mayor, I'm certainly happy to work toward the end of the year. I think that would be much closer in terms of then
We'll
knowing
give it a further figure.
fluctuating market with materials and the like. And I think we'll give you a materialistic position in terms of cost.
The last stage of the middle bit in Losemount would be well under construction, I would suspect, or then as well, wouldn't it? You'd have a reasonable scope.
Through there, certainly we're working towards now.
I'm trying to put something reasonable.
Yeah, no, we're all working reasonably.
So if you say it's January, I don't think any of us are going to say no, but you know, I'm trying to be reasonable.
No, I think.
We won't be here in January.
I think December's good.
Right, thank you. Sorry, Sharon.
So you're,
Councillor, can we fix
you're
this
working
motion? It's very.
as you want them, councillor Kevin?
Costings of, not all undertaking hot mix in the road, first line. First. Oh.
I think he's on that, it's a very long sections.
Wonderful.
After gate 5, put a full stop. The general manager also to provide, also to suggest.
Now I do this.
Yep, good. And finally, at the end, after project, puts stop and then the report be provided by December 2017. I'm happy with that if I have a seconder.
Second, please, councillor Hayden. No, not to speak, please.
Just a quick point on three references report be provided to the December meeting. I was under the impression that it might happen in the next month or two, so can we say by the December meeting rather than to the December meeting?
We would have brought it back earlier if it was
Yeah.
available, but yes.
All right, moving to.
I think we're trying to get an accurate figure, that's why I was trying to push it out a bit.
No, I agree with what you've done. Good. Anyone else wish to speak to this? I'll put the amendment, all those in favour?
I'm against it. Like I said, I should have waited 10 cents on a phone call.
Okay.
What you want?
Councillor McCarthy voted against, rest were for. The amendment now becomes the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed. Councillor McCarthy voted against. Okay. Council and delegate reports, item 11.1, Black Springs Community Association meeting. The recommendations of council received and note report item 11.1. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, this was just the report. It contains two reports in one there, with the AGM being the first and then the normal meeting that progressed afterwards, and I think it speaks for itself.
Councillor McKibben.
Yes, more than happy to second it, and I do commend Councillor Hayden. She gives a very very good report on council activities for the Black Springs Community Association. Every meeting she attends.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Unanimously. Item 11.2, the Oberon Business and Tourism Association meeting. And the recommendations of council received and note the report of item 11.2. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Dunbar. Hayden.
Yes. This was meant to be, I am quite certain that I have either made a mistake because I didn't pretend, there's confusion here regarding the 12th of July and June. This is a report for June meeting, so it might under comment where it's on page 49, where it says Open Business Tourism Association meeting held on 12th of July. That's bad typo on my behalf. So it was actually the June meeting because I didn't attend the July meeting as I was ill. So if that could just be noted, and also up in the summary, it's for the June meeting and not July meeting. Sorry about that.
Okay, well, how about we bring back the two reports next month?
If you like.
So we'll skip over that
Yeah.
report, saying it's already been dealt with previously.
No, I hadn't dealt with it.
No, it hadn't been dealt
No, I
with,
haven't
previously, so we could
bought
actually
June
treat it
meeting.
as a June meeting.
Well,
It was just a typo on the month.
The attachment is June.
It was the June meeting, but it was just a typo in the report for July and not June.
all right, Councillor
I'm happy to second it. And note that you put in June. You've got it out, thank you.
anyone else? Councillor Gibbon?
Oh, thank you. Well, I'm interested about the comment. Two paragraphs from the bottom about Transport for New South Wales saying 26-27 for Genolan 5 mile. And
Yeah,
that, I thought, as you said here, I think the honourable member Paul said 24-25.
yeah.
Do we have any clarification on that from anyone?
I had a chat with Paul through after the meeting, and he was going to contact Transport and get the date in writing so that it could be confirmed. Mr. Lelevry had stated that it was 26-27 when I was halfway through my report. And my report gave forward the information that we previously had, so it was one saying one and one saying the other, so Paul Tool's going to get back to me with.
So there wasn't confusion between one talking about Genolan 5
No.
mile, one talking about Hampton?
No.
No, okay.
No.
So, but do you have any update?
I was told by Mr. Lelevre as well, that it was 26-27. And I had asked Technical Services Director to contact Transport New South Wales, and they agreed that Honey was right. And with several minor slips and two catastrophically minor slips, I think that may even be a bit optimistic.
I mean,
Hampton is still due to start in November.
right. No, I would have thought with the work they have to do there, that it's a partly, it's perfectly appropriate. Only have to look at the problems having them wrong and right, yeah.
We, just with an aside to that, we may be having a visit from the Minister for Regional Roads in October, and I would like to make a magical mystery tour of the 5 mile to point that out to her apart from Hampton and other places.
And the Dover Mark can do very good cable car.
Well, yeah. For her to understand the issue with Hampton, and we might actually do a little loop around through the Forest Roads and Wickedy Walls Road or whatever it's called.
Yeah,
To show the other alignment, then a drive down 2 mile and up to 5 mile to the point where you can go no further.
It'd be nice if she could have a picnic at the corner of the intersection, wouldn't
Okay,
could I just ask one other story? The Edmund Power, his plans for the tourist hotel in Oberon, are they publicly available at the moment?
There was some information that was publicly available, and now can't be found.
Okay,
he's willing to talk about what he's doing. I understand that what I call the wine bar side, which I have seen inside, and it's very, very attractive. But I understand that young Edmund Power is really still quite ill with COVID, as it has been some months now. So that's, I think, gone into hiatus for the time being.
right. I was thinking maybe it's the appropriate time to do a presentation to council.
No, I don't think young Eddie is.
If and when he's well enough. If and when. Thank you.
Anyone else? Motion on favor? Motion is passed. Item 11.3, the Country Mayors Association meeting on the 4th of August 2023. Recommendations of council note the delegates report regarding the Country Mayors Association held on the 4th of August 2023 at Parliament House in Sydney. Moving Sector. Councillor Finbar. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Finbar.
Yes, it was a good meeting that I attended on behalf of the mayor, with, together with the GM. It's always good to hear from the new government. We had Penny Sharp, but the more concerning one was the Honourable Tara Moriarty, who happens to be our Minister for Regional New South Wales. And she was asked a question about decentralisation to the regions, which I think we probably would all find quite important. There's absolutely nothing on the table for that, to quite understand that question. And her version of that was, we'll be getting census services, people coming to the regions, which would just be a natural thing that would happen. So that was quite disappointing, actually. I found the Minister, Penny Sharp, to be quite approachable, and she listened, and she was going to follow up on quite a few questions from various mayors in the region who asked a lot of questions of her. But then the rest is pretty well our previous government talking to us as if they've never been in power ever before. So they're good meetings. I find that I think they're great because you actually get to have informal discussions with other mayors and learn about what their challenges are as well. So I found it very useful.
Anyone else? Okay, sorry, Councillor McKibben.
I'm more than happy to second, I second the support. I'm very interested in Councillor Trimbar's comments in relation to the Minister for Agriculture and Regional New South Wales, and obviously this area and all regional New South Wales is very dependent on the minister. And I know the JO is coming up, so we might also, I don't know, I think he is attending it.
Pretty sure, and also more importantly, the planning minister and the minister for local government.
Yes. So,
I think that'll be a much better news.
yeah, well, and I'm just, there have been some rumours in relation to a couple of agricultural issues which are rumours to the mayor, so I think that we'll have our hands full. So thank you very much for that.
Councillor,
Through you, Mr. Mayor, question for Councillor Trimber. Can you explain what they mean by bioscience protecting the economy from biosecurity threats?
That was
In Penny Moriarty.
I have got some notes on some of hers. It was very much like an election speech, to be honest.
Yeah.
It didn't go into a lot of detail. I think the general manager probably can confirm that. It was very top line and all being spoken about, not giving very much detail. So
Yeah.
Trying to get more
I
detail
find
for you.
that a confusing
statement.
statement.
Yes.
Sort of through the chair, just the bioscience is a new niche term in terms of how the state, how the country is going to move forward in terms of how it deals with threats. And the biosciences are something that there is a lot of niche talk about. So that's where I think that she's talking about the provision around biosciences being the saviour on this biodiversity issue.
So, through you, Mr. Mayor, so she was talking about threats to biodiversity rather than biosecurity.
As far as I'm aware, yes.
No, thanks. Not terminology or familiar with that. Thank you.
and I read it. Anyone else?
Oh, I was going to raise a question, but I don't know if it's answerable. Sorry.
I've been waiting after Mr. McKibben seconded. I just wanted to know.
Yeah, please.
Just wanted to know about the discussion number 17 on page 65 with Wendy Tuckerman around the security of local government funding. Well, how did that discussion pan out?
That was possibly when I exited to go to a funeral.
You know, general knowledge and some more information.
Through the chair, the provision around the shadow government is around how to keep the government accountable. And this is one way that they're looking to do that. They want to make sure the rate peg methodology is worked appropriately. They want to look at how the recommendations of the inquest into the emergency services is looked after, and it's more about their accountability to the government now.
And just one other thing to add on to that, I noticed that they resolved the membership for Cessnock City Council and Wollondilly being added to that for country meetings. I mean, we're getting very metropolitan in there now, isn't it?
Through the chair, both Cessnock and Wollondilly would be considered country at this point in time. The country mayor did make a determination to only allow Newcastle to be a associate member. And the associate member means you can turn up, but you can't vote, and you pay twice as much as what everyone else does to be part of it. So it is acknowledged in that space that we are not metropolitan. The country mayor said that it is not metropolitan. And whilst they're quite happy to talk to their metro counterparts, it's not something they're willing to change to support it. Because there was a recommendation, if you remember reading the other one, to align it similar to the local government New South Wales boundary, and they resolved not to do that. So whilst, yes, you could argue that they're getting closer to the city, they're not willing to take on those metropolitan counterparts.
Thank you.
Any other councillors speak? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Committee reports, item 12.1, Community Services Committee, and recommendation of the council receive and note minutes from the Community Services Committee held on the 13th of July 2023. Moving seconder, Councillor Graham and Councillor Hayden. Councillor Graham.
You're on mute.
Maybe she's not, she's very sick.
You're on mute.
Okay, I'm not on mute anymore. Can you hear me now? Yes.
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 Good. I'm having trouble hearing you. It's not you, it's my ailment. I'm as deaf as can be. Anyway, I would like to move that we accept that recommendation, and the main items are listed there in the minutes. And I'd just like to let you know that the planning for the end of year festival is going very well, thanks to Matt and Brooke particularly.
Yes, we just defend this, and it's very, very well put together. I'm looking very forward to the end of year festival with me and the community. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? Motion, all in favour? Motion is passed. Item 12.2, the Hazelgrove School Reserve Committee, and recommendation of the council. Please note the minutes of the Hazelgrove School Reserve Committee meeting held on the 25th of July 2023. Advised Hazelgrove Reserve Committee the application of grant funding to repair and rejuvenate the Hazelgrove Tennis Court when they become available. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Schubert.
Yes, we had our normal meeting up in the Mace Road on 24th of July. The committee is still waiting on the grant funding that may happen down the track. Repairs to the schoolhouse, which of course is priority, but there was some discussion around community out there being able to access the tennis court, which community's been mowing and trying to get things up. But they thought that might be a better idea to see if council or something comes up down the track, if they could get assistance to rejuvenate the old tennis court. That way people within the community can come down and have a game, do some sport, kids after school, and have shop and picnic area there, which will give it more scope for recreation. Yeah.
Thank you. But yes, well, I second this. But I think any enhancement to it or greater usement by the community suggested great. Where possible, great communities.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, it's just from the Rural Fire Service that actually mows the lawn. And I think the previous engineer, Lee Robin, provided a couple of truckloads of granite to rejuvenate the tennis courts, and it just sits there. So, council's provided the material, it's just lack of will from the community out there that wants to get it done. That's all. Materials there.
All right, what's your decision? Item 13.1, policy 4104, public gates and bridges. Recommendation to council adopt revised public gates and bridges policy 4104 as amended and presented.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know this has been council for suspicion. Probably now it should be so more than
Yes, we have to second that. There was just one statement that I read in page 74, number 5 under the application form. Under the director's comments, note that the on the last line and responsibility to maintenance of the gate. A little bit.
This happens. The couple of on. I had worked out the meetings on these policies. Some of them are same points that I making. The third point is just something that I think hasn't been got quite right, and it may be so minor, but it's measurement 2 in the mark of the policy. So I suggested that because we don't have any standalone parts that then removed, but it has also, it appears that it's also removed reference to gates installed as part of the grid. So at the start of section 2 standards, there's no now in red, no reference
case means cases installed as part of the loan dates. Lease. And along the same lines, it's down red point F. There's road with, I would say that paragraph should remain because you still have gates and the gates there are bypass from vehicles, whether you do like bridge, you bypass.
Whilst they're not always used.
Probably rarely do. Clearly stated that it needs gravel. Again. The more important point is in relation to page 74, I felt is that a much more important point in relation to maintenance that might be just worth outlining the history of that policy. Going back to the previous director, Councillor McCarthy mentioned the report on the modern employee who brought it in. I would estimate about 2 years ago. After that time, I don't think there's any policy to the condition of many grids terrible. We have no idea who maintains sense to council really serious on the cost. He sort of is the stakeholder injury. When is the reason paragraph on this should go back in, it's in the current policy, the bit about riding to a trainer at regular intervals. Appreciate that. Critical bit of the policy as it's crucial. Amendment on on the line. Well, the important part is it enables what will inevitably happen is an instant what we will think it belongs to Joe Bloggs and it turns out he sold the property 10 years ago to someone else's property. I had no idea that that was is inspected, just elated to say, just wanted to confirm that you are continuing to accept responsibility for this. I think that's really crucial. Then we commence the process of seeing if any other adjoining owners want to accept it. And if they don't, then and might be, you know, the threat that is going to be removed might be what's needed. Or
If it's you, sitting there.
Policy dictates. You know, it's my understanding is regardless of whether you take responsibility for it or not, it's on council's road reserve. Council has a role to play in making sure that it is to a standard. Now, if a landowner says, I think it's to my standard, the council think that's where the problem is. So it has to be at council's discretion to write that, which is why asking a landowner to say, oh, do you inspect it and is it all right? Can't fly in this instance.
no, well, as I say, even if it doesn't include that bit of us to inspect, just to reconfirm that they are still making use of it, they are still accepting it as their responsibility. Because, as I say, otherwise we will find that our records are so out of date and an incident will occur and there'll be no one else to, no one has accepted responsibility or fall back on council.
Through the chair, I take that point, but the whole provision around the grids and gates policy is to outline to the general public what their role and responsibility is. So I think that's well and truly entrenched in the policy already. My understanding, this maintenance provision that the director has asked to be removed from my perspective is around an individual making comment that they believe that the grid and the gate is okay when it is in council's road reserve.
Can I move an amendment? Sorry, Councillor.
Would it be more productive to actually have a matrix around grids and gates that gets a tick off? And if a landowner hasn't seen a council worker there checking on the infrastructure on the council roadway, then they can notify council, or there's a date, time plan or something around that scenario.
Infant chair, so certainly what would happen if something is a rhyme with the grid, for example, when doing a road maintenance on Mansfield Road, then we would look at what we know as the last owner for that grid and make that contact for them to make good repairs.
But if the grids on council roadwork wouldn't be required by council to repair and maintain that grid and gate because it's council infrastructure.
Through the chair, the whole premise of the grids and gates policy is to outline what role and responsibility an individual landowner has if they want to put a grid and a gate in council's road reserve. So it is the landowner's responsibility to look after.
Okay, so
But they look after it to our standard.
If it's their responsibility, then council could still set up a matrix system whereby it checks on those and then notifies the owner, couldn't it?
Through the chair, I believe that our engineering staff will do that periodically.
That's all.
I was just going to suggest, as I was the mover of the initial motion, that I'm quite happy for point 2 that the general manager be authorised to make minor changes to the policy.
So through the chair, as part of the original policy you put out, you've given General Manager had ability already, thank you.
But don't we need it again because this is now gone next issue?
That's the whole point of that. If it was an administrative change, we would just made it and put it out because it's some functionality here that we need to change. And I've taken the point about if we removed grids and gates together with standalone, then we need to include those. I think that's just purely administrative.
Yes, so do I.
I do too, I agree with that.
Yeah.
But if we need a register or include a register, then that may be a little further.
Yes, I think that is a more substantial thing, and I'm going to suggest an amendment to the motion. So at the moment it says that we adopt it as presented, and I'm suggesting that we add a sentence to say that council will maintain a register of grids and will write to each other at regular intervals, seeking written confirmation that they continue to accept responsibility for it. Well, grids means grid gate combinations. There's no gates on their own, but every grid has a gate off to the side.
Continue to accept responsibility or
For maintaining the grid to council standards. It's not asking them to go out and inspect it. We can still do that as we see fit, but it's a way of making sure that our information is up to date.
that they don't can't call up.
You've probably got a second of that.
That's what you've done to council.
Yes, can we define regularly? Is it 2 yearly? I would have thought yearly is probably put over
Yeah, I'm happy with 2 years.
past the checking.
But it's only a few clicks on the computer, so it's a lot cheaper and easier than someone physically going out all that often to inspect them.
So how often do you think the inspections required? I would think once annually at least.
The district vet probably does have more grids than anyone else in the local area. He could probably report on the how good they are.
So do you want to change regular intervals to an annual inspection?
Look, I was happy with at regular intervals, so it wasn't tied down that tightly.
All right, that's the proposed amendment. We have a seconder. Councillor Hayden. Anyone else wish to speak to this?
Did you second? Who seconded my initial motion?
No, she.
Oh, I did, so I can't.
You can't second.
Sorry, I tried.
Councillor.
So if this gets up, then it becomes a motion, then you're voting on it, so now discussing. I thought somewhere along here that in the original policy that we didn't gravel within 6 metres of any of these grids. I can't find it in here, but I'm, hey?
Through the chair, I'm looking for the same thing.
Yeah, and that was to protect council. And that used to be in our original policy. In other words, as seen in Bailey's Lane, the gravel right up to the grid, and then the first thing the landowner says, the council fill it in. And before it used to have a thing that the council was only going to gravel up to within 6 metres of the grid, and the landowner was responsible from where the council stopped up to the grid. And that was there to protect council, and it should be in there. And I could be wrong, I'm happy to be wrong. I thought there was still a gate on the end of Purdon's Lane that goes down to Ben Chifley Dam, isn't that? The last time I was up there, I thought the council was grading gravel in the road, but there was no grid on it. So I'm happy to be wrong. I should have checked. Okay, I'd like to see this policy really deferred and come back to next month and have that inclusion of the 6 metres back from the ramps included in whoever's motion gets up. It's to stop the council staff getting blamed for something.
So you're foreshadowing a motion then?
No, I just.
You can if you want, Clive.
No, I'm not gonna.
You can, Warren.
That's what we're trying to do. All right.
I agree with what should be deferred. Get this settled, it just seems to be going around in circles.
All right. Well, at the moment, we've got one amendment. It's been moved and seconded. So we'll vote on that. If it gets up, it gets up. And if it doesn't, we'll then go for this, what is essentially a foreshadow amendment. So anyone else want to speak to this current amendment? No, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Councillor Hope, Councillor Tucker,
Councillor McKibben.
Councillor McKibben. It's approved. And Councillor White.
We didn't see Katie.
Katie, what are you doing?
I'm having trouble hearing you. That's the problem.
There's an amendment on the screen. Are you voting for it?
I can see the amendment. No, I don't support the amendment.
All right. So can those who support it, put their hands up again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And against?
5.
5. So, the foreshadow is this be deferred until
The next council meeting.
to resolve.
Can it come back to works? No, can't.
Through the chair, what are we trying to resolve? Can we get an understanding?
I'll second it if councillor Trembath submits that 6 metre back thing needs to be installed.
The
6 metre each.
foreshadow amendment is basically to defer consideration of this policy
Till the next meeting
next meeting.
to review the 6 metre
Setback from the grids.
that seems to have disappeared
The
from the policy.
responsibility of.
And the inspection regime, I suggest.
And inspection machine, okay.
Okay.
And the method of inspection regime.
So you'll now move that. Seconder, Councillor McCarthy.
Can't blame the game.
It's yes.
Doing well.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will support that, and in doing so, Councillor McCarthy is referring to 6 metres. I think the Act talks about 20 metres, so in reviewing that point, just check the Act whether it's 6 or 20.
Okay.
20 foot.
20 foot.
Through the chair, if we read the policy under J of engineering matters says the road must be constructed and gravelled at least 6 metres in width for at least 20 metres on both approaches to both the grid and the adjacent gate. Now that is in the amended policy and it is in the previous policy.
Yeah.
So getting an understanding about what we are looking for some implication. But it's in contravention to what Councillor McCarthy is saying.
Yeah, because he talks about maintenance.
Sorry?
The council
ma-
won't maintain
maintain.
that section.
Hang on, I'll go back to maintenance.
Can I suggest it be deferred? This is why we go, and maybe we make a reference to the Act,
Yeah.
to make it in line with the Act or something. Sorry.
I think that's, just deferring this is actually a good idea, so that we can get this,
Because we're not getting it correct.
it's not clean.
So through the chair, I think we're confusing the matter rather than not making it correct.
Well, I think this deferral will provide some space and time to make sure that
To
it's.
make it,
All right.
To present us with a policy that we can all.
And include the administrative points that I raised earlier.
Anyone else wish to speak? All right, I'll put the amendment? All those in favour? Never does now the motion. All those in favour?
Councillor McKibben's
Pass.
got jumping beans. I thought he fell off the chair.
Pretty clear that
All over the place.
we're not clear.
All right, item 13.2, 40, policy 4103, driveway access to properties. Recommendation is that council adopt the revised policy 4103, driveway access to properties as amended and presented. Move and seconder, please. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Trimble, Councillor Hayden.
I think I was happy with this one. I'm happy to move that. I was just going to go through my online notes. No. Very happy to move that one and nothing further to add.
Councillor Trimble.
I'm very happy to second it as well. I went through the notes and I don't have anything to add.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the policy is written, I have no problems with it, apart from the fact, and I've read the table with great interest on page 89. And when I look, there's no actual definition of driveway accesses to properties. And I have 1, 2, 3, let's say I've got 12 accesses onto public roads from paddocks on my property. I don't know whether I have to comply with each of those driveway accesses to this table, because none of them would comply. And I don't know if that affects all graziers, farmers in the area, because the way it says is driveway access to property. Now, that could include just the main entrance to the main house or to any house, or does it include accesses to every shearing shed, every paddock, every shed, everything else? That's where I'm unclear.
Through the chair, it is basically with any access, so all accesses, so all new accesses. Certainly, there will be accesses that won't comply, but any new accesses moving forward is really what it's relevant to.
It says this policy applies to all driveway accesses in the Oberon Council. Doesn't say it only applies to new ones, so I'm assuming that all mine are in breach.
Well, if we put new in there, you're not. That's right.
So amended.
And does that mean if I have an access and I put a pipe in, that then becomes new?
No, through the chair, that would be certainly a maintenance upgrade purely.
Okay, I'm happy if we put new, because if this was to be applied retrospectively, I think we would have a nightmare.
Through the chair, it's not proposed to be retrospective. A policy is a new direction that you are looking to go to. You can't enforce a new policy retrospectively. We don't expect to do that.
But this could have
I
been.
absolutely commend you, Councillor McKibben, for letting the council know if you were going to put a pipe across an access that you currently have to your property, but I don't think that's the intent of this policy.
Okay.
All right, I think that just needs clarification,
All right,
because,
That's a minor change.
I think we can amend that appropriately to relieve you of that issue.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And yes, it was a good pickup, and the word new will fix that and point out under number 1 intended policy, it does talk about this is for constructing driveways. So I think that also implies that it's only applying to new ones. My question is also in relation to the table on page 89. And I'm pleased to see something there, because I think that will guide both council staff and prospective applicants of what sort of site distance they need to be looking for to find a suitable spot. My question is, where did those figures come from? Because they're different from what I recall from safe intersection sight distance, which is what is supposed to be the applicable thing. An access on the road is effectively an intersection, and its SASD is what I believe should apply, and these figures are different from what I recall.
Through the chair, certainly that didn't come from that particular document. I have had a look at a few differing documents, and certainly I've pulled this particular table from another policy not dissimilar to ours, and used these particular site distances in which
So
have
is
been
that
adopted.
safe intersection site distance? So could I just ask, as an administrative thing, rather than waste everyone's time, if the figures need to be adjusted, that could be done administratively, I assume, and that we just request that that it be checked to make sure that the figures comply with safe intersection site distance. That was all I had for the question.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. One of and I alluded to it a minute ago, one of the problems is that by its nature, our council area has windy roads. And to get on 100km/h road, 130 metres sight distance either side of a new entrance, I think it's going to be quite difficult for a lot of people. Very difficult. I know that there's an ability for it to be varied, but it is going to be difficult. Just because of the nature. I mean, I know, you know, from my house down to the front gate is about 100 metres, so I've got to go that distance plus another 30 metres if you're constructing a new house. And there are a lot of areas in the Oberon Shire that you couldn't get that along a lot of lengths of road, I know.
So through the chair, as part of it, this would generally be attached to an application of some description where our engineers have gone out and had a look at that particular access and where they can't comply. There's ways and engineering methods to alleviate where you can't meet those distances. So we put beware of entrance signs and whatever would need to be to meet the standard that makes it safe.
Concealed driveway.
Because I know, I'm talking personal experience, we had to move an entrance way because of a corner further up the hill to bring trucks into our cattle yards. But and that was sanctioned, or actually requested by the council at the time, which was not Oberon, it was either Abercrombie or Evans. And if I look at that now, that would not meet that requirement. And that's quite hazardous because we're bringing trucks in.
Councillors, these are policies that you enforce,
I know.
in place. If you want to remove those things, what you're doing is creating probably pretty significant safety concerns on users of a road.
No, I appreciate that, and I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm saying that it's going to be hard to comply.
Through the chair,
I'm not suggesting any change.
on the odd occasion, we have to intervene with engineering methods where accesses are trying to get in the safest spot in particular locations. And yes, I agree that sometimes they don't meet the standards, but that's what the engineers go out there and assess against when they do that. And they have made people move entrances at the time.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the last three sentences before the table cover that, they don't they?
Yes. They do. I'm going to put the motion. All in favour? Pass unanimously. So item 13.4, DA 10.323. Sorry, on this one, right?
Page 106.
Oh, there we go. Yeah. My tab fell out. Item 13.3, policy 4105, curb and gutter construction. Recommendation is that council endorse the revised curb and gutter construction policy 4105 as amended and presented. Councillor McKibben. Councillor McCarthy, Councillor McKibben.
If I may, Mr Mayor, with the mover, I'd like to change the 28 days down in the fourth paragraph to a bit more, 60 or 90 days, but if Andrew doesn't agree with that, I'll have to step
Where's
back.
this, sorry?
Down the bottom where it says we're only going to give the people
Section 3,
28 days notice. I'd like to amend it to at least 60, maybe 90 days. If you're not agreeable, I'll have to move a motion.
What page are you on?
Well, I'm
same
on
page.
page 106, but I got a tick book.
It's 106, it's just the third paragraph under the list of attachments.
Where council intends to carry out new curb and gutter construction, the owners will be notified of the project and contributed and charges by council. The owners will be given a minimum of 28 days notice. I think we need to give more than 28 days notice because we know a lot longer in before, but I really can't speak to it yet because
I'm happy
I have a
with that as
question on
long
that
as the technical services director thinks that's feasible.
To the chair, look, certainly that's a council decision, not really one for me to make, but I think it's really up to council.
I'm happy with the change. I have, Mr Mayor.
Well, let's hear from you, Andrew, because you did move this.
I did. So I'm happy to push this. I have put some minor changes through to the technical services director, which he has looked at and I believe agrees with. Just that there was some confusion in the wording on page 115. I use the marked up version for each reference. I think they would fall within the minor changes that general manager has the ability to make. And there was one other reference to just guttering, I think, where we referred to a quarter. And I'm suggesting it should say curb and guttering rather than just guttering. Apart from those changes, I'm happy. I think what we're trying to do is delineate that we give them let's talk about 28 days in a minute, 28 days notice. And then we tell them we're closer to the date when the actual work is going to commence. That was the delineation we sought. First notification was, all right, this is what we're going to do. This is how much you're going to have to pay. So I do have some sympathy for Councillor McCarthy's position on making it 60 days. It gives people 2 months' notice, which is probably preferable to 28 days. But I'm open to other people to speak on that as a proposer, and someone could make an amendment to the contrary if they wish.
I just did the seconder wish to say something first because I do have a query on that myself as well.
I just remember the Dart Street one,
Yeah.
that was all, and we knew well in advance, and they were told that they only knew that that was just a play on words, I think, because we knew a lot of time in before, we couldn't find a contractor to do the work, but I think it just should be pushed out to 60 days, that's all. I'm happy with the rest of it.
Yeah, just around that one statement where it states where council intends to carry out new curb and gutter construction, all affected owners will be notified of the project and of the contribution to be charged by the council for the works. Owners will be given a minimum of 28 days to comment on the project. It's not actually stating that owners of the premises will be given 28 days notice prior to the commencement of any work. And then again, it states in the lower sentence, affected owners will be notified at least 5 days prior to the scheduled commencement of the works. So if there's just a little bit of confusion around there, I would have liked to see the policy state we're going to give 28 days notice prior to the commencement of any works, and then it will go on exhibition for a further period of time.
We're not putting on an exhibition.
Oh, well, you know what I mean, like give 60 days to comment on that.
I think that's the
proposal.
wording re-change I've actually put through the technical services
Okay.
director for some clarification. So we'll work that through, but I think that's the intent of what we're trying to say. Whether it's 28 days or whether it's, we give them notice that it's 28 or 60, the intention is we give them notice to say, we're going to do this work.
Yeah.
This is what your contribution is going to be. You've got an opportunity to come back to us and comment. And 5 days before our intended date, because we can't put an absolute date, we're going to do the work. But we've put a note in there to say that that date can change because of weather and other circumstances, ability to get contractors, etc. So we're giving them 2 notifications, basically.
Councillor Trimble.
Can I just ask what the difference of 28 days or 60 days notice to give a comment? If you have a comment, 28 days is quite a reasonable amount of time. If you get a notice to comment.
No, that was, I get that, it was just the way it was worded, it's not listed, it can be
28 days
taken
to
in many
comment on the
ways.
project, so I find that fine. And being notified just prior to the commencement of the works is just enough time for people to get themselves in order. Move their cars or do whatever needs to be done, it's going to happen, that's basically all that is.
You may not have access to your property.
Yeah.
Councillor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and yes, you're quite right, that the purpose of having the 2 notifications is to try to overcome the sorts of issues that arose on Darts Creek, where the current policy only had 1 reference to notification and it was being used for 2 different purposes. So right at the start of the year, as soon as there's a decision that we're going to do a project, we can send out initial notifications, and I think 28 days is sufficient. That's what we have a lot of the time on other sorts of consultation processes, or when we put a policy on exhibition, it's 28 days. I personally think that's enough. And yeah, the second notification only needs to be minimal because, as you say, it's just, oh, I better park my car somewhere else because I won't be able to get out to go to work or whatever it might be.
The longer you get notice of that, the less likely you're
Yes,
taking.
so, there's been that amendment there, which is currently highlighted, hasn't been moved or seconded as yet.
That is what was moved and seconded, I'm sorry.
What, sorry, was it?
That is what Councillor Gibberton has.
Doesn't need amendment because that was part of the motion.
Put forward as the original motion. Mr Mayor.
Okay.
Chair.
Well, I'll speak to that if we're in that position. The only reason I thought 60 days, it gives the chance for the person that's not happy with the decision to come along to council and address it. If it's 28 days, they could be given a notice they miss a council meeting. But the 60 days, it gives them a chance to come along here and voice their concerns. Anyway.
Just to carry on that point, Mr Mayor, if you have a look on page 106, which is a copy of the submission that I put in under section 3 guidelines. So the first 2 paragraphs, the first one starting where council intends to carry out, and then the next one, affected owners will be notified at least 5 days. They were the suggestions that I was making for changes to the policy. The next 2 paragraphs were not intended as changes to the policy. They were just my explanation of why I thought the previous 2 paragraphs would be useful changes. However, those next 2 paragraphs have been included in the policy. They don't need to be in there.
It's one of the comments I think I made to the technical services.
Oh,
We both, and the technical services came and whispered to me before the meeting, that's correct, they shouldn't have been put in there, so I think that's correct. Isn't that correct, technical services?
All right, well, and we'll see, we'll see if this was another one of Councillor McKibben's comments. The paragraph that talks about there might be circumstances due to adverse weather where we have trouble giving the notification, etc. So I'm looking on page 115 on the partly highlighted paragraph right in the middle of the page. I would suggest if we're only going to be giving 5 days notification of when work is actually going to start, then I would suggest we remove that paragraph and change the wording of the 5-day notification to say council will endeavour to provide at least 5 days notification, and it saves all that guff about adverse weather. And that's probably another administrative change.
Okay. It doesn't say endeavour to? Oh, is it crossed out? The
It
council
says it provides reasonable
will
notice.
provide reasonable notice. I thought that covered it.
Yeah, but in the paragraph that's just been added in, affected owners will be notified at least 5 days prior. I'm suggesting that be changed, that we will endeavour to provide 5 days notice. And I think that then covers us if something goes wrong at the last minute.
So. At the moment, we've got that as an amendment. We've got a number of administrative changes, which I think the general manager's got. The amendment's been moved and seconded. Anyone else wish to speak to that amendment?
So is this an amendment or is this the motion?
No, that's a motion.
It's the amendment at the moment.
No, it's the
No, it's the
motion.
motion.
That is the motion.
That is the
that was moved
motion,
and
because it
seconded.
was,
Because when
Prior to
I
the-
moved the motion,
Sorry.
I put those words on there, yeah.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Passed unanimously. General manager's got an excellent copy of all the.
I've got scribble everywhere.
Good on you. All right. Item 13.4. DA 10/2022 59.1 multi-dwelling house 2A Queen Street Oberon. Recommendation is that council support the requests, variation and non-compliances with the following provisions of the council's development control plan 2001 and endorse the multi-dwelling housing in the proposed configuration. Section C 5.3, height of the building, brackets 5.5 metres. Section C 5.4, buffer zones, brackets sewage treatment plant. Section C 5.5, building height plane. Section C 5.7, setback from the street. Part 2, that the draft conditions of consent be endorsed and issued as notice of determination in accordance with the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act of 1979. And the division be called in accordance with Section 375A of the Local Government Act. Moving to Secretary, Councillor Hayden and Councillor Tucker. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I had a thorough read of this. I think the developer has been very forthcoming with requests of those that had some concerns and altering different sections in there to help. Having a multi-development down there is going to be an asset to the community. I think that it's a brilliant idea and we as a council should possibly get behind this, considering they're very happy to work in with those others around them that have issues and move things around and put in different buffers, barriers and fencing. I think it's fine and I'm happy to move that.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I agree. It looks like a perfectly reasonable development and it's a good detailed report explaining the non-compliances which appear to be minor, and I'm happy to support.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak to this?
Yeah, just take number 2 submission in. I can't see whether they're affected at all because they have no living area facing this development, as you see on page 119. But anyway, I suppose if you're there and there's a change, you make a gripe. But yeah, I think it's a good development. And we noticed next door that there's a 2-storey one on the corner. So it's a very similar fit.
Councillor Trimble.
And just to add to that, there is, I think, townhouses across the road from that as well, so.
The motel.
Motel, yeah, so it's good to encourage this new type of development. We need more housing and it's aesthetically pleasing as well, so I think it's great.
I think it's good, really good. Anyone else wish to speak? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Item 13.5, DA 10/2023.22.1, 14 Earl Street over on a new shed. Recommendations of council vary part 5, C 5.5, building height plane of its DCP 2001 in relation to development application 2023.22.1 for the construction of a shed at lot 601 DP 110051, being known as 14 Earl Street, Oberon. The revision be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act of 1993. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Tucker. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy with this development as well. You can note that there's no submissions received. The little bit of streetscape, I can't see any hindrance there at all as well, and I'm happy to move that.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker.
Same as what I said last time, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Councillor Trimble.
I just have one question, because I note that there's Crown Reserve and the applicant has advised the vehicle access to the shed will only be quiet a few times a year. What would be the impact if that was to change hands and we've got a new owner? Just a question. So the current owner says they're not going to do much with it, but is that something that could be changed with a new owner? And would there be any, should there be a condition attached to it? That's because it's Crown.
Right, so through the chair, it is Crown Road, it's Crown land. If the Crown want to come on and give that to council or turn it into road or do anything like that, they can do that. At this point in time, there would be a condition of consent to say you can only use it sporadically to stop.
That's just my question.
Whether they do that or not, then, but that's the way it'd be dealt with.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Passed unanimously. All right, item 13.6, DA 10/2023.15.1, Childcare Centre and Community Health Facility. Recommendation is that council supports the request for variation from non-compliances with the following provisions of council, with the following provisions of council's development control plan of 2001 and endorse the proposed childcare centre and community health facility. Section C 5.5, building height plane, section C 5.7, setback from the street. The revision be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993, and that the draft conditions of consent be endorsed and issued as a notice of determination in accordance with the Environmental Planning Act and Assessment Act of 79. Councillor McKibben.
I'm still here.
Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy to move this recommendation in 3 parts. I think we need to encourage our centre-based childcare and community health care facility and its extension. And as noted, it is obviously consistent with our objectives of our residential zone. And the non-compliances do not detract from the suitability of the project, the site and the locality. And as I said, I think we need to encourage these sort of facilities in our town. So more than happy to move this.
Thank you. Councillor.
Yes, I'm happy to second this. I did have a question around the community health facility section of it, knowing that it was kindergarten childcare. Has that been operating as a community health provision in there at all at any time? Because I'm not aware of that. So what are they proposing as in regards to the community health provision? What do they want to offer? Or they just want a space to have there?
Through the chair, I'll divert to the land director, but I think it's a space.
It's a community health facility as such, gives
Page
services.
152, it does explain it.
It does.
Page 152. Under the photograph.
Yeah,
Second paragraph.
council training area.
Training.
Yeah, but it says will be used primarily,
For counselling and training.
which is best defined as community health services facility.
Yeah, it also says community health services facility, not separately defined.
Yeah.
And included in the definition of health services facilities. So it's
It was just, it's broad, so I just wondered whether it was gonna be for child health, you know, how they used to come out like Tresillian do, and maybe they do things like that. That was just something I wanted to have differentiated in there.
Through the chair, the space has been provided to
Provided
allow
the
for it.
future, yeah. Okay.
The consent would be addressed to allow for it.
I'm
I
happy
don't-
with that, I
yeah,
just
I
wanted
don't
to
know
get
whether
a bit more.
they've come to any agreement with anyone to do that.
Okay. That's all right, thank you.
yeah, so for users of the land, you've got to be consistent.
Yep.
Yeah.
With the application, it can't be varied unless council approves. That's right. Because it's just a space that they've designated for that, and they don't have any current provider that's going to run there.
Right, anyone else wish to speak? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Item 13.7, 22 Herborn Street, Oberon. And a request of that's page 178.
178.
Recommendation is that council vary part B 12.8 of its DCP 2001 in relation to the request from the owner to allow overhead power to be subject to the subject property being 22 Herborn Street, Oberon. That division be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Councillor Hayden and Councillor Trenbath. Councillor Hayden.
I'm happy with moving the recommendation, like other houses in the street already have overhead power. I don't see why this gentleman should have overhead power.
Councillor Trenbath.
I'm happy to support the recommendation as well. It's probably one of the last in the street to be developed. It doesn't make sense to make them, you know, do something because of a new DCP. It'll look better if it's just exactly all the same in the street, so overhead power lines.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor McKibben?
Well, I generally support this. Does this in any way set a precedent that may cause a problem in the future?
Through the chair, the way you override the precedents, bring it to council for their consideration.
So were there any other, so we have this property, which is the end of the line, but then there's one after it, is it?
Yeah, through the chair, there's one on the other side of the road.
Right.
Next to it.
Next to it, isn't there? Is the one next to it got overhead power or intended to have power? There's one either side of it, they both got overhead power?
There's a picture.
Because I saw that.
There's no poles.
No, it's got underground power or no power?
Those last three blocks have got no power.
No power. Okay, so we're likely to get requests from those three.
Potentially.
The other two.
Look, I'm happy with it.
There's also one here.
Anyone else wish to comment?
On that side of Creek Street.
Councillor McCarthy?
I normally would have been horrified with this, Mr Mayor, but after seeing what went on down Albion Street, I thought we had all this covered, and as you see there's a sawmill there gone in, and overhead power lines been put across Albion Street. I thought when Councillor Marge Armstrong moved it ages ago, when she was a councillor, it was a whole town at the start going underground. I understand these 3 blocks were derived long before that policy was put in place, but if you have a look down Albion Street, I think let the cat out of the bag.
Okay. Anyone else? I'll put the motion, all those in favour? Unanimous. All right, item 13.8, Oberon Waste Facility, green waste fees and charges. Recommendation is that council, in accordance with the adopted 2023-24 fees and charges, continue to charge the commercial green waste fee of $265 per cubic metre. 2, that council remove the value of the current voucher system and replace it with appropriate appropriately valued items. The council workshop be prepared by staff and councillors to review all matters relating to the Oberon solid waste landfill and develop strategies to assist in the long-term sustainability of the Oberon solid waste landfill. And on completion of the workshop, a future report be provided to council for consideration. Mover and a seconder, please.
Mr Mayor, can I ask this to be put in 4 parts?
I'm happy to put that in 4 parts.
And can I ask, Mr Mayor, that we deal with 3 and 4 first?
Yes.
I'm happy to move 3 and I'm happy to move 4.
I'm happy to second 3 and 4.
Okay, who would you like to speak to that?
Mr Mayor, there's quite a bit of information
Thank you,
here,
Sharon.
and we know we've had some submissions, and obviously commercial operators have written in, and I know there's other commercial operators who have views on this. There's quite a lot of information to go through. I think that as a council, we need to know a little bit more detail about how our costings of green waste and other waste is achieved. I certainly got some questions on why our green waste cannot be treated as green waste and has to be treated as contaminated waste. So I think the appropriate thing to do at this stage is to have a workshop to discuss all this information we have prior to coming to any decisions in relation to the other matters above 1 and 2. And that's why I would prefer that this recommendation be restricted to items 3 and 4 as listed.
Well, I'm happy to pass 3 and 4, but we're still going to take on 1 and 2 afterwards.
Absolutely.
Just through procedure. You've got to move it for 3 and 4, however you want to move it in 4 parts, so now do you want to move it in 3 parts?
No.
He's got a
I'm
second.
quite happy to move 3, then 4, or I'm quite happy to do 3 and 4 together.
You move 3, well, what I had was you move 3 and 4 together, councillor Hayden seconded 3 and 4 together. So you're spoken at 3 and 4, councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to second councillor McKibben's alteration to that recommendation of 3 and 4. The fact is we do need to have a workshop and sit down and discuss some of these fees and charges which are really not in a good order at the minute and are causing the community a fair bit of grief. So I'm happy with 3 and 4 to be seconded. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak to this? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? All right, parts 3 and 4 are passed unanimously. I'll now go back to item 1, and that is the recommendation that council, in accordance with the adopted 2023-24 fees and charges, continue to charge the commercial green waste fee of $265 per cubic metre. I'll move in a seconder, please.
Could I put an alternative? Could I put an alternative, may be different, very different to what's currently there, that the alternative motion reads that council continue with the 2022-23 fees and charges for commercial green waste until after the workshop to review the pricing. And I will second.
Seconder.
Through the chair, in the report, it highlights that was $30 a cubic metre.
That's right.
Instead of, can we just put at $30 a cubic metre until workshopped? Rather than changing the
Yes,
whole
that's
premise
right.
of the.
So you want, what you're saying there is that
I want the pricing changed until after the workshop.
so it's commercial green waste fee of $30 per cubic metre.
Yep. Until workshop.
Interim.
Till
As an interim.
as an interim, yeah.
All right. So that's $30 a cubic metre as an interim.
And that is the 22-23 rate.
Yeah.
Can I just speak to it?
Okay.
Because I think the changes that we made and the communication of those changes were appalling. I mean, we have commercial customers, they're our customers, and they should be treated as our customers. People who run businesses to be given new rates, which gives them no time to provide that notice, redo their own business, and then they're then carrying rates to flow on their customers, and they're going to have to absorb those costs, or push them back out to their customers saying, well, sorry, these are the new rates that I've got. So I just wanted to make it very clear that there's nothing in what we've done today that we should be proud of. And all of the feedback that we've got, I've got feedback, you've got feedback, you've got feedback, and that's not how we treat people. And the other comment that I also noticed, because we had another lady down the road who put her submission in, why don't we have a small business, commercial and commercial
Restructured.
we're treating everyone like the same, and we put this fence around and we've captured all these people accidentally that we wouldn't want to.
All right, what
I
we're
can do
trying,
this
what
in
we're
the
trying to do
workshop,
at
but
the
I want to
moment
get this across.
is pass some recommendations
Mm.
which set the scene for the workshop where we're going to go into detail of this. Now, I'm quite happy with personally I'm quite happy with $30
Yep.
as an interim. But others may have a different view, and does anyone else want to speak on that item one?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, I'm happy to support that motion. I had something very similar in mind. I have checked back in our fees and charges that we got adopted in June, and yes, it's gone from 30 to 265, and if I had noticed that at the time, I certainly would have queried that. I don't think any of us noticed it, but I'd have to say the onus is on all of us.
We need a smack.
We all need a smack because none of us noticed it or queried it. And similar with the vehicle wrecks, I hope that will also be included when we get the report, because I hadn't noticed that they were previously free, and especially if we're making money out of the metal. So I hope that will be part of the workshop that we have. And the same as is it commercial building waste?
Mixed waste.
It was hoped that would have been part of this report. I gather there just hasn't been enough time to include it because there were more emails in the last, another one today, just saying that, hoping that would be decided today. So it's not in this current report, but I think it does put the onus on all of us, councillors and staff, to try to get this workshop happening as quickly as we can.
So through the chair, on the back of communication that we've had, it was considered that the best option would be to take it offline to start with, do the workshop, integrate all the submissions that we've received. However, staff were asked to go and do a report on green waste, which is what this was. There wasn't enough time to include all that, and nor do I think that we would have got to a point of being able to solve it. So a workshop is the reason why.
It just means that in the meantime, the people who have been complaining in the last few days will have to put up with that high charge until we have the workshop.
Or store it, or go down that path, or pay it. We haven't had the workshop.
I'd like to just make a further change to that amendment, and it's not until the council workshop is held,
and the report.
Until the council workshop
has reconsidered
fees and charges.
Fees and charges.
So can I be clear, we're reverting back to $30?
Yes.
And you're refunding anyone that's been charged?
We haven't mentioned that in that. I don't, that should.
We have a comparison table.
We should be able
We
to
have a
give a
comparison
credit,
table
shouldn't we?
here that every of the councils has weighbridges. We don't. Katoomba shouldn't even be in there. They have a waste levy. I've done some research on it.
Oh, the Sydney Waste Levy.
Yeah, so take them out completely.
We probably
And
should have
the only
to
one
do
you're
credit.
comparing to is Blaney, but then we're comparing volume versus tonnage, and
We've got the whole lot here of all the areas as well.
I'm proposing further amendment, because what we're talking at the moment is only dealing with the green waste fee. We're not dealing with the other charges that have gone up considerably.
But we will be.
But can we put them in a separate subgroup?
Are we happy that the other charges I think, which have increased rather dramatically, should also be put in abeyance until we have this workshop and resolve what charges are appropriate.
Because you can't, I was going to put that under the voucher system and.
I mean, if they've only gone up a small amount, I have no problem. It's where they've, and maybe we say where they've gone up more than 100%.
400%.
I know, but there are others that have gone up 100%. I think where the charges have gone up more than 100%, we should.
But councillors, please be aware that the report outlines the reason why.
Yes.
That's okay, we just
So-
failed it.
So
We've failed
it
as
wasn't
council.
just a magic bullet that staff pulled out of the gun here. However, in saying that, it's a good point in relation to if staff were to be given an understanding on what fees you believe to be, if it is double, if the fees have doubled, then we revert back, let us know. Because there will be a period of time that we need to look at preparing the workshop and getting all those things to line up. It's not something that can happen tomorrow.
But sooner rather than
How
later.
many
Yeah, no,
categories?
I
Well,
understand that,
currently, we
councillor.
need
It's not what
to
I'm
make a
saying.
decision as councillors as to how we wish to direct our.
How many fees have gone up more than 100%, I suppose is the question.
That
I counted 11,
I can't tell you.
More than 100%.
yes.
Do that.
Mr Mayor, the mover and seconder of that, in what they're trying to say is, we're only dealing with the green waste at $30
At the
cubic metre.
minute.
Yep.
It should be that, and council undertake to have a review of the whole fees and charges.
Yes.
Again,
So,
so what's been there only indicates the green waste.
so just through the chair, as part of the workshop, that is the intent.
Maybe
The whole lot? Yeah.
we
the
can
whole
put
of the
that,
waste-
that in
the waste
that motion
report.
there.
That's the wording of number 3 that we just
Correct.
passed.
So could I propose an amendment to 1, that council in accordance with adopted 23-24 fees and charges can, where there has been over 100% increase in the charge from the 22-23 year, that those charges remain at the 22-23 level until the issue has been resolved at the appropriate charges.
Let's make this simple. Why don't we just revert to 22,
Yep,
23
23.
charges, whole as follows,
Until after our workshop.
until after we do
I
our
don't
workshop.
want to stop us getting some revenue where we think it's
Well, no, we're still
No,
getting
it's-
revenue, we're just not, not,
All right, I'm happy with that.
I mean, I am,
The community would like that.
the community's not happy, I'm not happy, the fact that those, I would have expected those charges to have been highlighted. I mean, I don't mind 5% here and 10% there.
We sat in community consultations and did not highlight
And we
this.
didn't even pick it up.
No,
But there are people who are sitting in this room that knew that it had happened, because,
We voted
income
for
and
it,
revenue was, looked at and
We
wasn't
didn't.
highlighted.
Sorry?
We voted for it.
Look, I agree with you.
We failed to really look at it deeply.
That's right. We had
Yes,
a big
failed to go through these with a fine tooth.
Rush through it.
Absolutely. Hang on. Through the chair, it was very clear to us as staff that councillors asked us to go and review the charges that some users are providing at the tip.
Yeah.
Right, so to say that that wasn't the case is a bit unfair on staff.
No.
No, I understand the concern that's been raised, and the concern that's been raised in the community is something that I strongly believe that we should workshop, and I fully support that workshop process.
And get away with it.
The weighbridge is as part of the 23-24 operational plan, and it will happen in the next 12 months. However, there's been a long and very detailed history on the problems that we've had in order to get a weighbridge informed. Like, we've had to go through a power and an easement process, and there has been quite a substantial process that we've gone through. The other thing is that like everything else, people in the waste space have exacerbated the price of a lot of things, and we've traditionally not absorbed that. So that is the rationale in a nutshell about why some have gone up to this level. Whilst I understand absolutely councillors' concern, and I support a workshop which will bring back some sort of strategy and mechanism that we can use in order to look at these potentially a bit better than what we have.
We could have not been having this conversation if we had given our customers advance warning that these new charges were coming, a flyer every time someone comes in, you know.
And through the chair, that's what I absolutely agree with councillor about.
Okay.
So we have a way.
The weighbridge could be installed now though, couldn't it? What's the stop of being installed now?
You haven't selected a weighbridge.
Councillor
Hayden. Haven't selected
Yeah.
a weighbridge yet.
Okay.
Councillor Hayden.
So currently, if this is the motion for the number one, and this is going to be the new one in its place, I'm very happy for that. And then after we do this, we can then move on to the voucher system and have that discussion.
This is an
That'd be great.
amendment that it requires a second, Mr Mayor.
I moved it, yeah. Did I move it or no? I'm second, I'm looking.
And with me, I don't care. I
I'll
have
second it.
moved
Yeah,
something.
second it.
Thank you.
All right, anyone else wish to speak to the amendment that's there? All right, I'll put the amendment, all those in favour? And that amendment now becomes the motion, so all those in favour? All right.
Through the chair, I've just been asked for some clarification around the potential refund, and it's strongly suggested that that not occur. And we just go from today, we move on.
And can we have a public announcement for that this week?
This is,
do
go
that.
through this first.
Yeah, anyway, we've got the next.
All right, now, item 2 on the recommendations is council remove the value of the current voucher system and replace it with an appropriately valued item.
I'd move an alternate.
Yes, please.
That council retain the value of the current voucher system until the workshop that is to be held in relation to waste charges. And a report, and at that workshop, councillors, there'll be a report following that.
No, I don't agree with that, because you're
Well,
saying.
he's moved it.
Can we see
I'll
it?
second that.
Seconded by councillor McCarthy. Now, want to speak to that?
I think that it's appropriate we retain it at the current value, because whatever we do in the workshop will affect a number of things. And I think at that stage, we then, when we've determined the appropriate fees and charges for 23-24, we can then look at what an appropriate voucher system value would be. I think it would be inappropriate at this time to determine it without having had the benefit of the workshop.
Okay, councillor McCarthy.
I'm happy with that statement.
Councillor Schönbach.
Just a question. That's great that we're going to revert, but what does that mean to me? I've got $10 on a voucher, and now the people at the gate, what are they going to do? It's not the old voucher.
No, there is a reasonably simple way around that, and that is simply make it
Except the current
that
issued.
the issued vouchers provide the same
As far as,
quantities as previously, and it's not about dollars, it's about quantity.
yeah,
But
as last year.
I'm the ratepayer out there goes, oh, $10. Oh. This is a mess. It's terrible. You know, we look like idiots.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The suggestion you just made of making it like a volume or a weight value rather than a $10 value, I assumed that was what the intention of recommendation number 2 was. But I have to go along with Councillor McKibben that I think in the interim, I think it is neater and cleaner to leave it what is printed on those vouchers that have gone out with all the rates notices and make a decision then as to whether we're going to revert to a different type of calculation or leave it at a dollar amount and what that dollar amount should be. I just think that's going to be messy to change the way that voucher is valued for that interim period. The other point I wanted to make about that, we were saying that, well, I was certainly saying that I hadn't noticed those other changes in the fees and charges, and no one else did either, and no member of the community put in a submission pointing it out either. But I can't say the same about this change of the voucher system. I've looked through the IPANR documents and I can't find any mention of the way those vouchers are valued being changed. Was it in there somewhere?
Through the chair, it's in the revenue policy.
Right, okay.
That gives a value to, it was supposed to give a uniform value to what we believe a voucher could be worth. So from a financial perspective, we can collate what that means. The rationale behind recommendation number 2 was to simply allow the community to keep their $10 voucher, but staff come up with a number of things, items that we believe equate to what we would consider a voucher, similar to how they have done in the past. So revert back to a trailer, revert back to some known items that allow that to occur.
That was printed on the voucher last time. It's very clear what your voucher is valued at.
Without a value being placed on it, councillor, yes.
It was very clear. This voucher.
But that's what we're proposing to do in the interim, whilst we go through the process of a. So you continue to give your $10 voucher in, but it's highlighted and we advertise what that is.
But it gives you extra. So if you go to the tip with that particular voucher, the staff at that tip say, oh no, you can bring your trailer in.
Correct.
That.
It'll be a standard
as long as that
trailer.
can be done and
different from the current motion.
That's what, no, the current motion stands. I was just giving an indication on what, in answering your question, as to what the intent of the.
No, but my question wasn't about the intent, it was about where I can find it. Were we advised that the method of valuing those vouchers was changing? I can't find it.
We told our community you get 4 vouchers.
Told them very clearly that we are maintaining the voucher system as it had done, as it had been previously, and we did follow the assessment.
Yeah.
That was it.
And so I'm just puzzled as to who or how made that change to make it $10.
It was in the report, councillor. I'm looking at the report right now. It was absolutely provided in that space, so you can't say it was hidden. However, I think the intent of the voucher is to provide our community with a value add, which I believe, from what I'm hearing, what I'm seeing, that's been undervalued, and we're looking simply to revert to that value that we have previously had.
Can I ask
and then workshop it appropriate.
Where am I looking for it in the IPNRs?
If you look at the finance committee, that IPNR page.
I'll find it.
You said it's in the revenue statement of revenue?
No, it's in the report.
IPNR paper that was put at the finance committee for exhibition. That was the cover paper.
Yeah, okay. Well, I accept that. If that's another thing that was part of the report and none of us have picked it up that it was going to change, then again, that's our bad. I was just puzzled because I couldn't remember it and I couldn't find it. That was all.
Councillor, I think you understand by what we're trying to do, that we're all in the same position here, and we're trying to get a interim remedy so we can support that motion.
Okay, we've got that motion.
Can I do an amendment to that?
Well, so. Is everyone happy with that?
So that's keeping it at $10, that's on the current vouchers. Is there anything that we can add into that motion that is a statement? I liked the original motion that was under section 10. 2, sorry.
Well, what this is doing is again, putting it into the council workshop space.
Yeah, that's
And it's
fine.
one of the things we need to do.
But is there
So-
something that we can mention within that states, the voucher, if the people go to the tip, they're still going to be able to use that voucher for old scale charges, if you can get what I'm twisting at.
You want to revert to 20?
No, I don't mean revert to a fee, I just mean saying they go in with their $10 voucher, it's okay to tell the staff at the tip, yep, you can take their trailer for the $10, but we need to have something written into that, so when these minutes go out and the community are watching, they want to know that they've got something to refer to as well.
So you wanted to go back to the recommendation?
Yeah, I would suggest that, with the addition of listing.
Well, we have a mover and a second of that recommendation as it exists at the moment. Well, and yeah, that's what will happen. All right. I'll put the amendment.
Yeah, it's not an amendment,
Sorry,
that's a
sorry, it's a
motion.
motion, it's a
I'll
motion.
put the
councillor.
motion.
Can I put an alternate?
Well, no, because the motion's been put, you have to put an amendment.
Oh, that's what I mean.
So
amendment.
now, I put the motion. All those in favour?
Amendment in?
Yeah, she can do it.
I can put an amendment in.
But I already said I'm putting the motion.
Move on.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Councillor Hayden against, yeah.
No, I'm happy to,
You were, okay.
yeah, I'm happy with that, I just wanted, that's why I'd said earlier, I wanted it worded a bit differently.
All right, so that's all four parts dealt with. Now, I'd just like a quick discussion about when this council workshop can take place.
Can I have an
We'll come back to
alternative
you
motion to the
sometimes.
recommendation?
Could you circulate some alternate dates, please, Mr. Chairman?
Yeah.
Bearing in mind that there's quite a few meetings next week.
It'll take a little bit of time to put together. Hopefully in the next
It'll
month.
be after next week, because you
It's in
and I,
the
at
next
least, Gary, are away for the latter part
We'll
of it.
do it in the next month, council.
Okay.
Try and fit something.
Yeah, beginning of September.
So you, Mr Mayor, can we get an indication on when the weighbridge is going to be available? Like, these things aren't rocket science. You have on rural farms every day now running off.
I think it's in the technical services report, we can probably raise it then.
Okay.
There's a reference to it there in that report.
All right. Item 13.9, Cole Road Tree Plant Community Building Partnership Grant. Recommendation is that council allocate the required 50% of the funding of $16,000 from the section 711 urban roads to match the required funding, the amount of $33,200. Move a second.
Sorry, can I ask before this is put, I don't know where these trees are being purchased. Do I have a conflict of interest? No, right, thank you. Well, I don't know, so there's no.
That's all right.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that I'm not,
Don't have.
Conflict.
yeah, I don't have a
That's all
conflict.
right.
Before we start, Mr Mayor, aren't the trees already installed?
I know there's some holes being dug on Wednesday.
No, I thought the trees were already installed.
This is about the money to pay for them.
Yeah, through the
Yeah,
GS.
okay.
So, a mover and a seconder?
Yeah.
Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation. I've got to add, Mr Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor McKibben.
I'm happy for this to, yeah, proceed and, we have a tree management plan that we spent quite a bit of money on, so I'm happy for it to go ahead and let's get going. Start beautifying our town.
Anyone else?
Yes, I thought the, actually, the money should have come out of public open space itself, because some of it's planted in the park up there, where you go around off the O'Connell Road into Albion Street, so that's not on the road reserve, that's over in the park, so I thought it should have come out of actually public open space money, to be honest.
Through the chair, the available funding does suit in the road reserve, so look, it does and has flowed into some of that open space, you're right, all that road reserve sort of area, so it's not impermissible to go through this actual urban roads area. It's in the road reserve predominantly.
Anyone else? Put the motion all in favour. Motion is passed unanimously. 1310, the council red fleet asset.
Councillor McCarthy didn't vote for that.
Anyway, it doesn't matter, you'll run the meeting, Mr. Mayor.
I'm sorry, did I miss you there?
No, you didn't put your head up, count the people, I was watching you.
Oh, there you go.
So anyway,
My
wait you go.
mistake, I'm sorry.
That's not a mistake, it's,
Council Red Fleet assets. The recommendation is council recognises Red Fleet assets in the compilation of the 22-23 annual financial statements. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Hayden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, Councillor McKibben. I'm very happy to recommend that council recognises its Red Fleet assets. They are an asset for our community. They are very important. A lot of councils may not be recognising this, but we don't get those audits if we do. All good.
Councillor Trimble.
I'm happy to second it, and as councillor Hayden just said, if we don't do that, we would be, like some councils have been, subject to a qualified audit, which we don't need the expense of that. And we've always done it historically, so I don't see any reason for us to change the way that we have our accounting practices.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I support this well, not for the reason that I see them as a council asset, but simply because local government is a creation of state government, and they've told us that's what we're going to do, so that's what we're going to do.
Anyone else? All those in favour? And passed. 1311, the Disability Inclusion Action Plan 22 to 26. Recommendation is council place the draft Disability Inclusion Action Plan 2022-2026 of the exhibition for 28 days and seek community feedback during the exhibition period. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Trembath. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm very happy to support this recommendation. It's a very well drafted and put together inclusion action plan. I'm happy to read that.
Thank you, Councillor Trembath.
Happy to second that and nothing further to add.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of passing comments. I support the motion. But I had a look through the plan, and it does talk in one section about improving footpaths and laybacks. And I am aware there are still a number of places around town where we have curbs and footpaths coming to the top of curb without laybacks, without tram ramps. And so I just hope that in this new financial year that we can use some of our footpath money in the TI fund to put to that purpose to provide those tram ramps or improve existing ones that may not meet the standards for gradients. My other passing comment was just about the project that I've tried to get included in the TI fund, which is the improvements at the Ross Street, Queen Street intersection. That's partly about traffic safety, but it was also about providing pedestrian access for anyone with mobility issues or wheelchairs or whatever on the northeast corner, it's simply not possible to get down to the curb. The path's up here and there's several steps down the curb. And so part of the idea of that project was to create a way for those people to be able to get along that footpath. So I'm just pointing that out and hoping that at some point we will be able to find some funds to do that project.
Anyone else? Put the motion, all in favour? It's passed. All right, items 13, 12, the local roads and community infrastructure program. Recommendation is that council endorse the revised project allocations to the value of $434,900 for inclusion in phase 3 of the LRCI program and lodge an official variation request. An additional $204,000 be allocated to projects within stage 2 of the Oberon Sports Complex to be further developed once costings are obtained, and delegate the General Manager to the authority to make minor adjustments to the scope of and project allocations to support the application process. Mover and seconder, Councillor Hayden. Councillor Trimble. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move that recommendation. We've all had sat down and had these discussions, so nothing really further to add on that.
I'm happy to second it and nothing further to add.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't like my chances, but see how we go. I'm happy with number 1 and number 3, with the 204,000 that we now have to decide what to do with it. And it's so the motion is that that also go to the sports complex. As usual, I would like to see us make a tiny little bite out of our big backlog of road funding. So either reseals, or my suggestion is that we use it for the section of Dog Rocks Road, which is deteriorating, and before we totally lose and have to totally reconstruct it, it's just about the right amount based on the figures that the Director gave me previously. So I would move an amendment to number 2 that be allocated to the rehabilitation of a section of Dog Rocks Road.
Second for that amendment.
I'll second it for discussion.
Okay, all right, we'll accept that.
Got further than I thought.
There you go. Who seconded it? Because I heard 2 voices at once.
Mick.
Yeah, I second it for discussion purposes. I'm a different view on where it should be spent.
Councillor McKibben.
Mr. Smith, I'm just trying to get, I didn't have the opportunity to look at exactly all the papers from the, I think it was the July meeting when we went and resolved what we did at that meeting, which is listed down on page 222. But if I could, are we still through this reworking of LRCI phase 3 and phase 4, reducing the Oberon Library loan by the same amount, or is it a reduced amount? Because I thought we were putting more to it than 244,000.
Yeah, through the chair, correct. So this working would not deliver the reduction alone as per the first attempt, which was looking at the full 434 reduction. Based on this working, it would be a reduction of 244, leaving a loan of around 650k remaining on that Oberon Library Community loan.
So I'm not sure why the granting authority rejected our initial proposal. I can't, it seemed to fit within the guidelines. So on what basis could they reject it?
Through the chair, the discussions, negotiations and ongoing discussions related around that, we sought an avenue to qualify
the construction of that project under the loan, as there was still some fit out and finishings happening. That was some initial advice and guidance provided by the staff that there could be an opportunity to pursue that, which we did. We did that because it would deliver a much bigger reduction of that loan. As we put the variation request through, a different body within that assessed that project and deemed it to be not suitable based on how far that project had progressed. That was quite different to the guidance we had provided. We did try to argue that quite a number of times, but it's become quite apparent that there's not going to be a budget on that. We then re-looked at our budget and see where some cost reduction could happen, and this is probably the best outcome we could get in terms of still achieving the budget deficit removal and the loan, but that's essentially where those discussions have landed with the grant authority.
So if we allocate this 204,000 to something that we have already got a budget allocation for, which hasn't been undertaken, then it's arguable that we could, from our own internal resources, apply 204,000 in addition to the 244,000 to reduce the loan. It's not the case?
Well, you would need to look within our current FY budget, and that's where as you've seen, there's a bucket of projects there that we actually contribute to. There are the remainder of the big budgeting is roads, which are predominantly funded via grants. They're not budget relieving items, and therefore the guidelines allow you to claim on things that need to be with the guidelines, such as accessibility for facilities. So you can't qualify buildings core infrastructure. They need to be publicly accessible. So there's not a lot that we could see that could still fit within that guidelines that are budget relieving, and that was the best that we could get to with not circumventing the guidelines too much. And so yeah, that's
not circumventing the guidelines at all, I assume.
That's right. So we knew when we were pursuing the library that we were being quite aggressive in the guidelines, based on that there was still some minor elements of that building to be completed. But as we went through that process, we realised that hole was probably closing, and these fit very much more centre with what the guidelines of the grant and the intention of the grant.
So we have budgeted, for instance, for reseals. Some of that is coming out of council's own. We have grants for some of it. Some of it is coming out of our own resources. So just looking at Councillor Tucker's amendment, if we were to put money towards those reseals, is that within the guidelines?
Through the chair, that roads matrix, that 280 that you're seeing in there is our full own source contribution.
That's right.
The remainder of it is coming from some element of grant.
So we could reduce that 280 and use the 204 towards that, and then we could make a contribution to reduce our loan out of that money we save there, couldn't we? Or not?
Could you repeat that one, Councillor?
If we're using 280,000 for our contribution to resales, and if the resales fit within the guidelines, then we could put the 204,000 to resales and use that money that we were going to put to resales to reduce our loan.
So the reseals are currently coming from grant funded projects.
But I thought you said there were 288,000.
That's right. So in the roads, there's 280 that we are contributing from our own rates revenue. That is being earmarked for other maintenance unsealed.
So would that fit within if we were to allocate that to those things, would that fit within the criteria to those?
Possibly could be, yeah.
I'm just saying that we could contribute the 204 to that, and then we could, out of our own monies, contribute 204,000 to reducing the loan. So we actually reduce it to the same amount as we resolved in July.
Yes.
204 is for the sports bid, not the loan.
No,
reverting back. Oh,
we could do that.
You could do that. You-
So on the next question is.
Yeah.
That's one scenario, so just.
But also just on to clarify, with phase 3, where we're moving this money in, there's only X amount of scope remaining. There's only 434 scope that is remaining there, so you only have that amount to play with. So
that would be the, okay.
We don't have a sports field missing out.
So if we looked at the sports, the Oberon Sports Complex, we're putting 296,774, which I think we indicated was going to the netball courts, wasn't it?
And partly the stage 2. Yeah.
Stage 2.
So through the chair, what you've provided to a stage 2 activity.
Yes, stage 2.
We haven't identified what that is yet, because we want to get best value for our dollar.
So if we allocate a further 204,000 to that, what will then that allow us to do within stage 2? I don't think it'll do a hockey field. I think a hockey field's 500,000, but I'm not.
It's
Further.
it's more.
So what I'm saying is, what overarching benefit do we get by allocating a further 204,000 to stage 2 of the sports complex? That's unclear from the paper.
Well, through the chair, the reason why it was simply put there was council's attitude in the first section about trying to value add and completing the sports ground complex in a way that you believe that should meet more than just one section or one sport.
Absolutely, and I thought the 296,000 was for the netball courts, and we thought that would cover the netball courts?
Possibly.
So if we have 204,000, which is not enough for a hockey field, I'm just asking if it's, what is it then going to be directed to?
Through the chair, that'd be a decision for council to make at some point, when we have a really good cost estimation on what each of those things is going to cost.
Understand. So what I'm saying is, are we being preemptive in putting that 204,000 into a holding, basically a holding account for the sports complex? Are we better off, if we can, doing what I suggested before, in using it for roads that we've already allocated money to, and then paying some money to reduce our borrowings on the basis that, and I keep saying this, and I'm sorry to be a record, that we do not know what an STP is going to cost us and what we're going to have to borrow for it. And it worries me with, we've got interest rates going up, etc. So that's why my questions to you, Corporate Services Director. Anyway, I put that out as a discussion. We've had an amendment proposed, but I'm just trying to understand this allocation. And I don't want the 204 sitting in a holding account, because we can't, it's not enough for a hockey field. We've got enough to do the netball courts, and it's sitting in limbo at the moment, when we've got a borrowing which we could reduce.
So through the chair, having a good stash that would help do a major component that you're looking to facilitate is much better than trying to find a major component that you're looking to deliver on a
We could always
complex.
borrow against the facility again in the future to do that. We have that option, but that we know that stage 2 or 3 may be a couple of years off. So why not reduce the borrowing now, and then if we decide to go that way, borrow then. At least we're not paying interest for 2 years.
I've answered the question as well as I could.
Yeah.
Okay, I actually think that 204,000 should be allocated to projects within the sports field, because if you think that you're going to get those netball fields for the amount of money that we've already had allocated, you need to think again, because they're going to be a lot more expensive than that. I think that we should be focusing at making sure that we've got money and a bulk of money allocated to the sports field, because that is a significant project that's going to have some positive effects for the community, and that is of high priority. That's just my input.
I'll support councillor Hayden's statement in the respect that originally when we started off, we were getting like for like 2 fields, 3 netball courts and a small hockey field. That's been taken away and the netball courts have been dropped off. We need to rekindle that. The netball's back, they're training over there, and we need to spend something on the facilities. We went down that other path and myself and 2 other councillors lost, but we've incurred that debt. You got to just wear it and pay it off bit by bit.
Can I ask the technical services director what he believes the 2 netball courts will cost now?
3 netball.
3 netball courts.
Oh, look, I'm certainly can't commit to a cost. I really don't know. It's something I'd have to obtain. Sorry.
Well, I thought that's what we decided last week,
I thought we
were going to have a cost.
and that was the 296 would cover it, I thought.
Through the chair, I have been trying to obtain one, which I haven't actually got yet, so I don't want to commit to a price, sorry.
Well,
I could be wrong, but I thought we agreed to about 200,000 and any carryover was to be spent on the perimeter.
that's
of the
right.
hockey field.
That's exactly right.
But by the time
Anyway,
But through the chair, the director's right, we haven't got this is the cost, but yes, you're right, it was about, that's what we were looking at, around that. There was a 200,000 spend and $100,000 on prep work for the hockey facility.
So,
But this could potentially value add that.
yes, so Mr. Chairman, I don't want to, I'd like, and I know this is difficult, but the proposal I put, would it have wings with the grant authority, or would it be not approved?
Through the chair, hard to say. We would need to do a variation on an existing grant to move scope and then put the new scope into another, so there's another layer of grant variations there. It's within the realms of the guidelines off the top of my head that it could be possible, but we would then likely need to come back and highlight which has been approved and which hasn't. So, but there is some possibility to that. But off the top of my head, I don't think there's anything that drastically rules it out from the start, but it could be a potential opportunity. But that would be a grant variation into a grant variation, both that need to be approved,
Which is problematic.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I understand what Councillor Tucker's trying to do, but haven't we got funds that can cover the resheeting of that Dog Rocks Road?
Through the chair, no, it's a full rehabilitation required.
Do all the money spent?
So through the chair, no, there was never no funding committed at this point in time in the budget.
I thought there was money for resheeting, gravel and maintenance and that, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to respond to that, it's not a simple resheeting. It's ripping the bitumen, putting an extra layer of gravel on and resealing. And my idea of putting that forward was to try and get that done before we totally lose that whole section of road and cost us a whole lot more than 200,000.
I understand that.
All right, so at the moment, we've got an amendment which is $204,000 for Dog Rocks Road, which we've had a mover and a seconder. So, does anyone else want to have their 2 bobs worth on that one?
have I had my 2 bobs on that?
Yeah, I think you have.
I'm sorry to ask a question.
That's 5.
Technical Services Director, I'd like if I could through you, Mr. Mayor, could you comment on the necessity and the urgency for doing this Dog Rocks Road work, because I think we need your opinion on this.
Yeah, thank you through the mayor. Certainly the road is at a point of, as councillor Tucker has indicated, certainly cannot be just reshoot with bitumen. It needs a full rehabilitation, which is the ripping. So it is at a point that, yes, it is critical to be doing something with it. And now is probably a good timing to do something with it.
Thank you for that. I think that'll assist us.
All right, can I?
Well, yeah,
I'll just add-
we've been around the block. a few
I know, but I
times.
just want to add that, because the next question I would have asked is, then why wasn't it included in this year's fund? And I would suspect, but not to the detriment of other ones that we've already programmed.
All right.
Thanks for the answer to the question that wasn't asked.
But it was
The
thought.
amendment is that an additional $204,000 be allocated to the rehabilitation of a section of Dog Rocks Road.
No.
All those in favour? 1, 2, 3. Against?
Katie, what about Katie?
Katie, she's against.
Shane was against.
Katie's against?
We win.
It's not a winner's, it's not a win-loss. All right, so we're now back to the additional $204,000.
No.
I was against it.
It was me, Ian, and Bruce.
So now we're back to the original.
Motion, original recommendation.
Vote on it.
I'd put an amendment.
No, you're banned.
So who moved and seconded the original amendment, the original motion?
I think it was Hayden and Trimbath, wasn't it?
Yep, that's correct.
All right. Okay, all those in favour?
Can I put an amendment?
No, you're banned.
Well, you can, I'll be reasonable, but let's, all right, what is the?
The amendment is 1 and 3 as it is, and the amendment would be to 2.
Yep.
And I'm not quite sure how I word this. The 204,000 be allocated to road projects within,
Reshooting entire streets.
But we just said no to that.
what? No, we didn't.
Well, we just knocked a road
We just
project out for the
knocked that
time.
out.
No.
We just said a road project was out.
Yeah, but be
And weren't you
allocated
the seconder
to
for that motion?
existing road projects budgeted for 23-24, and that council pay or reduce the loan on the Oberon Library by a further 204,000.
I didn't think we were allowed to do that any further.
What's the library? Is that the hub loan, is it?
Yes.
Yeah, we're not allowed to do that any further, so the corporate services director told us last
No,
time.
No, he said it was possible.
Said that, through the chair, that would be one grant variation rolling into another. I can't confirm the outcome of that, but
You done an amended motion there, Mr Mayor.
I think it's a risky thing to do.
Ridiculous.
Didn't have a second, the chair.
Can I speak against that?
Anyone else want to speak?
I want to speak.
I can speak for it. The reason I've looked at this is because I wish to reduce the hub loans.
Yeah.
And I do not see the benefit of having 204,000 sitting in stage 2 for the Oberon Sports Complex for a period of probably 2 to 3 years, sitting in a fund when it could be used to reduce loans. And if we need 204,000 for creating the hockey field or anything in the future, we can then draw down on our loan facility at that stage without having paid interest for 2 years on the hub loan. That's the reason.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I support that for similar reasons. As much as it will be great to have that new facility and over time to get it completed, but I think that the potential to get future grant opportunities to complete the remaining bits of the sporting project are pretty reasonable, and I think it is a better use in the short term to try to further reduce the hub loan, so I support that.
I'd like to speak against it. Over many months, we have always been very complimentary about the state of our roads and how we manage our funding currently. So I'm not sure why this has to be allocated to roads. And as our corporate services manager, director, has indicated, it's a grant variation of another grant variation. So it's quite risky for us to pursue this, and then it's going to come back to council again. And I would imagine that what you've put up here is probably something that will probably easily slide through what you're proposing.
Yeah, through the chair, the other element to this is that any budget relief in this year needs to be actioned quite quickly as these projects are started. They are not qualifiable anymore, so there is a timeline element to this. Yeah.
I would like to speak against the amendment because I actually can see it being quite a time wasting one, because I guarantee it will not get approved to pay him off the loan. And I will hold true to what my statement was, is that the sports field is priority at the minute. And it will be for probably the next 2 years, and I'll keep on it too.
Councillor Cup?
Yeah, I'm speaking against it in respect that, I remember the Dog Rocks Road, and I can remember Aruna doing it at one stage. We had 11-metre wide pavement at one stage. Are we going back to repair that and all the rest of it? But I also sit here next to, when Don Capel was here, Councillor Capel, and he said without sport in the community you have nothing. And I think this money has got to go to the sports facility, and it won't be years away. With a bit of luck, it'll only be 15 months, 18 months away.
All right, I'll put the amendment. All those in favour? Councillor McKibben and Councillor Tucker against? Remaining councillors. So we're back to the, Katie, yeah. We're back to the original motion. So I'm going to put the original motion.
On the second.
No, we've done that. We've already done that.
Parts 1, 2 and 3.
We've just been here an hour.
Okay. All those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and Councillor Tucker.
And Katie.
Katie is 4.
You've got your hand, Katie.
Got it, Katie. Yeah, got it.
Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you. Now, Sharon, has the food arrived yet, do you think? All right, so what I'd like to do, if there's no food out there, I think we'll have a quick push through.
Yes, is that okay if you have a break?
Right, road naming 1313, road naming Bracken Ridge or Bracken Estate Oberon. Recommendations that council proceeds with an advertisement to be placed in the Oberon Review. That's you, seeking written submissions for the naming of a new road within the Bracken Glen Estate. At the conclusion of the 30-day exhibition period, a further report to council will be presented compiling all received name submissions in consideration and determination.
There's no tea.
No tea.
Can I have a mover and second, please? Councillor Hayden, Councillor Tremblay, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm very happy to move that recommendation, and I look forward to reviewing some of those names that come forward.
Thank you.
I'm happy to second it.
Councillor McCarthy, you have anything to say?
No, I was on the second of that.
Why is it a 30-day exhibition period?
Instead of 28.
Through the chair, it's the way the
4 weeks,
geographical
4 by
names
7.
were
Okay.
board works.
Okay. Policy update, domestic and family violence policy.
Did we vote on that?
Yeah.
No, we didn't.
No, we didn't.
I was getting well ahead of myself.
Okay.
All those in favour?
Yep.
All right. Passed. Policy update, domestic and family violence, policy 2126. The recommendations of council place the amended domestic and family violence policy on public exhibition for a period of 28 days And should no submissions be received during the exhibition phase, an amended policy be then adopted. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McEwen. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move a recommendation. This policy is in keeping with what's currently in state and federal, so very happy with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm more than happy to second this and obviously necessary changes as a result of legislation. And the only question I would ask is, I'm assuming in the quarterly budget review, we will be making a provision for what this costs to us, the 10 days a year or whatever it is.
Through the chair,
Because we'll have to make a provision in our accounts for it, won't we?
this is legislated, however, we already do that. Council, in fact, was in front of the curve in trying to.
Same number, same period? I know we do,
Same
but
period.
it's the same period. Okay, so we don't have to change it to our accounts.
And hopefully never use it.
Yes, hopefully. More than happy to second it, Mr Mayor.
Anyone else? All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Late report, which is the fees and charges. The Oberon Fitness Centre and Pool Complex. The recommendation is the council place fees and charges for the Oberon Fitness Centre and Pool Complex on public exhibition for 28 days. And endorse the fees and charges as presented if no submissions are received during the exhibition period.
Before we vote on that, I did want to bring up an issue within those fees and charges. And I'm sorry, I thought we're having a break and we could have brought it up afterwards. But anyway,
So they're the current ones, aren't they?
Current and proposed.
Yeah, so through the chair, the director and our new facilities manager has gone through the initial fees. And we believe that there'll be more to come at some point, but we needed to start the process given timings.
because there was some questions around that in keeping with some other fees. And can I discuss it publicly? Is it in here? Because I thought I highlighted, I just can't find where I wrote down the information now. With the fees and charges and what was in the layout, there was the new fee of $2 for concession, but then there's no fee for just a visitor. Spectator, so
Zero, we're proposing zero.
I still think it should be $2 because they're still got to be covered by an insurance aspect under public liability and everything else by entering the space. And I also had a question around the fee for the family in there. So the family was actually quite cheap as well. I can't even find where I had that noted anyway.
Well, this is going for exhibition.
Just
I'll
exhibition.
move the report.
Yeah, okay,
Next
so we can put all that submission in down
discuss
the track,
it.
can't we? Okay.
Katie's had a comment.
Katie's got a comment.
Second.
Are we gonna move it?
Councillor Graham?
You, I'm having trouble talking now, but I can hear you at least. The casual fee for last season was $5, not $4.
By the way, we didn't, when Helen started, we didn't actually have a mover in a second.
No, there's no mover and
So that was,
seconder
you
yet.
moved it, did you?
No, I didn't move it yet.
I think Clive moved.
Okay.
I just wanted to correct some of the information. So the casual swim fee was $5 and the concession was $3.50. And as for the spectators, we very rarely charged it, even though we were supposed to, because there was you couldn't come into the pool without an adult until you were 16. And that was pretty excessive to make sure an adult was there to look after 15-year-olds. And so that's, I think, probably why we stopped doing the spectator charge. So I was pleased to see that there wasn't one. So if you want to keep it the same as last year, would be $5, but $4 is fine.
It's based on some of both the new facilities manager and our director have seen as something we believe to be an issue.
Sorry, I didn't hear any of that, Gary, because it's all muffled. Can you speak nice and clearly, please?
The change to the has been done in consultation with the facilities manager.
You're squeaking. You're not talking, you're squeaking. Sorry.
I can't speak any louder unless you
That's
want me.
better. No, that's better.
So the fees have been undertaken in consultation with our new facilities manager and the director. The fees for spectators agreed have been reduced to zero as proposed. But until we have an endorsed set of fees and charges, we can't charge anything. So we needed to put these in place, and as indicated by the mayor, if there's any changes that have been proposed, we can look at it through the submission process, because they're only to go on exhibition, they're not to be endorsed at this point.
No, the changes look good. It's just that was wrong for last season. It wasn't $4, it was $5.
Through the chair, that's what I was provided, so
That's fine.
to be included, so if it's incorrect, I'll try and get the correct one. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Could I suggest we have a key to the table, because I'm having difficulty understanding what DD means, PE, LTS, and some other abbreviations there which do not appear to be defined. So I would suggest a little key at the end of the table to indicate what those all mean. And FN.
Fortnight, through the chair, DD.
Fortnight?
Debit.
Yes.
Direct debit.
Direct debit.
But is that a daily visit?
No.
A concession DD, pool entry only, $10. Membership, so you pay that plus your entry fees or not?
Before you put on exhibition, General Manager, put a key there.
Yeah,
It must be a fortnight.
is it a fortnight? That's a fortnight, 11, so it's $10 a fortnight with a direct debit for a membership, and that includes pool and gym?
Through the chair, that's pool only there.
Pool entry only, right, multi-site gym and pool 36, and is that per fortnight, or that's a 1 week up front? Okay,
Through the chair, that's last year's.
yeah, 95, it's 50, okay.
It's quite just through the chair, the different, that's the only section that
It's
seems to
different.
have changed in those fees there, in the membership. 36 to 50, 65 to 95, 28 to 34, and 38 to 44. That's the section that's changed.
But through the chair, the multi-site ones looked at, the current gym, 1 week up front is $40.
Yeah.
So you're actually
Getting,
it's cheaper to
Yep.
take the $36 one than the 40. So we've upped that to $50 to include both the pool and the gym.
gym.
For a week up front.
That makes sense.
For
For gym membership,
excellent. No one knows.
for a yearly membership fee.
Through the chair, it was not a yearly membership, no.
But I'm just saying, couldn't we?
I'd suggest submissions be received from the public
Yeah.
to, if there's people who want to pay a yearly fee, that would be the time to do it.
And this is a
But yeah,
policy question, or is it a dollar question?
dollar question. I'm
that
having some trouble understanding why an adult direct debit under memberships
I think
multi-site
fees
is
are too
38
cheap.
per fortnight, and a 1 week upfront multi-site gym and pool 36. So if you direct debit, you're paying half the amount for 2 weeks for a, 44.50, but yeah, it's a bit better for 44 and 50, I suppose, but you're getting a $6 benefit by direct debit, but then it's costing you $50 for a week and 44 for a fortnight if you direct debit. So you're paying twice as much if you don't direct debit. There's some confusion there in the fees.
Because people who pay direct debit tend to just keep going. Okay, through the chair, councillor, the direct debit is fortnightly?
Yes, and the 1 week is $50, so it's,
Okay,
yeah.
we can spend a lot of time trying
We
to
can.
sort this
I'm happy
table
if
out,
there's a
so
key
let's
put to it.
make submissions if we've got a problem.
Yeah.
Because we need to get this up and we need to get some
And we need
figures
to
out
make-
so we can actually start
Start opening the
opening the pool.
All for, all in favour, all in favour.
All those in favour?
Yeah.
I've had my hand up for a while, Mr. Mayor, just a
I'll see you
couple of
in
quick
favour.
questions.
Does it involve dollars?
No, it's about, I seem to recall a comment previously that there may be some people that already have memberships with the Y and confusion about how we're going to handle that if they still come back saying, well, I'm a member, I demand entry. Is that something we need to consider here?
No, because the costs that are there are the same as that they're paying at the moment.
And any memberships will
The
continue?
memberships will have to be ceased and started. Because we cannot get, the Y can tell us who the people are, where they live, what their names are, but they can't give us their bank account details. So we need,
So they haven't already paid for some time in advance?
mostly it's direct debit for a fortnight.
Right, okay. And the second question is, I know we discussed the need for a further report. Once we agreed that council would operate it for 12 months, but we still need a report on what we think that's going to cost council and whether that affects our budget. And I'm wondering when that report's likely to come back.
Through the chair, when we've got some idea about what that's going to look like, I'm more than happy to bring a report back.
Yeah, what's that mean? When?
Council resolved to give me some flexibility around this,
Yeah.
and when I understand what that looks like, I'll bring a report back, is my intent.
And the point I made at the time was that we don't want to get halfway through the season and find, oh, we suddenly need an extra $300,000.
Well, and I agree, and so far the negotiations with the YMCA have gone pretty well. But there are some things that just need to be started, such as how do we, we'll contact all the members and swap them over and all that sort of thing.
I wasn't talking the membership issue there, I was talking about,
Through the chair, unfortunately, they're one and the same, because you use the membership to run your facility. It forms part of how you do with the
so
facility.
we still need to see some numbers for what we think it's going to cost with the change from the Y to us, whether that needs a budget increase.
And that's why I said that I was given some flexibility to be able to at least start that process before we brought that in, because I can't tell you whether there's going to be 400 members or there's going to be 4.
No, I know that, and the question was, when are we likely to see a report? I hope it is before or not too far into the new season.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed. All right, now the hard ones. Reports of information. General Manager, item 14, recommendations of item 14.1 is received as information. Every seconder, Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy to move this recommendation. A couple of questions on the land development opportunities halfway down page 238. Just wondering when we're likely to have those development applications prepared for Curtis and Dolly Streets.
Through the chair, I am working on them at the moment for council. We were getting a contractor in to do that for us. So it's progressing, and I would suspect that we're very close in the next couple of weeks that we'll have something prepared.
Okay, thank you very much. And on page 242, on halfway down, I note there's a meeting with the resident regarding the tree in Carrington Avenue. That's I think it's the same one. I assume we considered it a meeting, earlier meeting. That's still becoming a festering issue, is it?
Well, council, when we resolve to one, not knock it down, then two, not keep it, it makes it a little bit difficult. We are looking at our options and we'll bring a report back in the near future. I would hope September with some options, because the way that I see it, we have to have a look at what damage is that doing to our system. Can we remediate that? If we can, what is the cost of keeping it versus what is the cost of removing it?
I think that was part of the motion.
That is exactly.
Well, no, it wasn't. Was
Through
rejected.
through the chair, unfortunately, if I had a motion to work with, I could have dealt with it, but we don't. So that's how I'm attacking it. Hopefully, that's the
Maybe
plan.
not the appropriate word.
Yes, sorry, unfortunately.
All right, thank you. As I said, more than happy to move it.
Thank you. Helen?
I'm happy to second that. I did want to have a bit of a query to see if you attended down to that energy and mining conference. I don't think you went to that, did you?
Through the chair, I did attend the energy.
Could I have a little bit of a brief on that, if you wouldn't mind, just brief?
Through the chair, I'll bring back a report to the next council meeting on that exact
Yeah.
exact event.
All right, thank you.
Councillor McCarthy?
This was given to the previous general manager. When do we get rid of the yellow container in, back of the lane that's at the library, or is it gone now?
Through the chair, the shipping container.
Yep.
If it's not gone, it will be removed to the depot in the very near future.
I was just wondering whether it and the other container couldn't be utilised out of the tip as a shelter to the front end loader that we have out there to keep it out of the weather, that was all, but
Through the
I can't
chair,
direct staff in that.
nothing is out of the question at this point in time because it seems like we're the only one who want it.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
Any more? I'll put the, sorry.
No, I'm just
I'll
ready.
put the motion, all in favour? All right, 14.2, planning and development, recommendations, item 14.2 is received with information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Trimbar, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation to accept the report, and after conversation held with the planning director today that the shed has been delivered and it won't be long and we're going to have that walk up at the recreation ground, and that's really exciting and nothing further to add. Thank you.
Nothing further to add, thank you.
Anyone wish to, any comments or questions? No? I'll put the motion, all in favour? Passed. 14.3, technical services, that the report item 14.3 is received with information. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A very extensive report with normal photographic evidence to support what's occurring. I'm just more than happy to move this report, but I have a couple of questions. On page 254, there's a heading O'Connell Recreation Ground Irrigation, but there's nothing under it.
Yeah, I saw that.
Are we missing a paragraph there?
Through the chair, yeah, sorry, that's my bad.
Would you like to give us an oral brief on where we are with it?
Sure. So the progress of that, as I mentioned to councillors in previous advice, was erected. The overhead filling station and amenity to drive that has actually been now shifted up to the top, ready for connection. And a lot of the field work restoration has been completed, so it's hoped that in the coming week that we will have the commissioning of this particular irrigation and fill point area again ahead of the warmer weather coming. So my apologies again. That's in summary pretty much what that was going to talk to.
And I can't recall if it was here, if it's here or something. I recall seeing, and please correct me if it's not, in the Living Legends wall, I saw there was some reference to some of the Living Legends having to be redesigned.
Yes.
Yeah, that was us.
Through the chair, there's two that have gone, let's call them MIA. We've got the book that outlines which two. However, what we're doing at this point is trying to develop a synopsis of the extensive amount of work that was put into the original book to fit onto a 1 A4 page document. So each of the,
There's a lot of text
yeah, so
which need to.
for one of them, there's 4 pages of text that we need to simplify into one page.
You can ask Mr. Albanese.
And there was another one that's 3 pages that we have to do a similar type thing to.
So is that an additional cost?
I know we're doing that internally.
Okay, right.
So we have the picture, we just need to
And then we have to make.
create some text similar to the
Grass,
other
then we have to-
38.
Yeah, we have to do the grass though, don't we? Whatever.
Sorry?
We have to then create it in brass, don't we?
Yeah, so the 38 are in production. It's the last 2 that we need to just come up with some amicable solution to, and what I was proposing is do that synopsis, have a common working party, just to see that the common working party are happy with the wording, and then go from there. I might even do it outside the session and just forward it to council to give them an opportunity to critique it before we
So
agree to it.
from memory, the 38 others must just about be completed then.
They're well and truly in the manufacturing phase, yes.
So we should have them installed in September.
We're hoping to have them back as soon as we possibly can.
Fine, all right. Were there any questions I have? Thank you.
I second it.
Any more?
I have seconded.
Take it.
Yeah, I'm happy to second the report and the pretty photos. Nothing further to add, thank you. Now we can vote.
Councillor McCarthy?
With the 2 living treasures, let's just get on with it, make an in-house decision and go. Because the people, there's one is the lady from Urandy, I don't think she's had any siblings. I could be wrong, and we can't get in touch with Dr. Roby's relation, so let's just get on and make an executive decision and get it done.
Well, if you're happy to do that, there's 2 executives here who'll make that decision and get it done.
Thank you.
You're the other executive.
All right.
So this is still, what are we still on 1403?
Yep.
Can I just get an understanding from Chris, from the Director of Technical Services, why we're carting all the fill down at Emu Valley Creek and then carting 4 kilometres back at this stage? I know it's a good dumping point, but there's a cost to it, isn't there?
Through the chair, you mean Snake Valley Road intersection?
Yes.
It's something being addressed at the minute in terms of backloading and alike. We have talked about that, but yeah, certainly that material, aside from that end car wood road intersections, needs to be picked up and brought elsewhere. So at this point in time, yes, it is becoming a bit of a problematic issue, but I am certainly aware of it and yeah, going to be addressing it with backloads.
And the other one I've seen this Friday week is that our contractor took the flexibility, the day off, which was fine on a Friday, and the excavator bloke was up along the road using the lights during the week to stop and go. And then he decided to work Friday, and then we had to engage 2 lollipop people. And when you add the cost of that to the excavator, it's nearly double. Like, surely someone should be coordinating saying that it's flexi day for everybody on site, or it's not. If you give it a mean, there's a massive cost there.
Through the chair, you look at, again, a necessity to keep things moving along, but again, that excavator has or is disappearing from site, so really had to be done. Look, I recognise your point, but something that had to be done because the excavator is about to disappear for a few weeks or so.
I just noticed it's nearly been sitting in the state forest for a week, that was all.
Yeah, again, I don't know exactly the movements, but yeah, certainly they're finished to a point until such time that I can commence back up the hill following the completion of that REF.
I'm just looking at the cost that, yeah, the cost of an excavator, everyone else has stopped work. And when he was working there before, it was happy to do the stoplights. So then the stoplights weren't there on the Friday. And I don't know what the lollipop people were, but would they be $75 now?
Look, again, to the chair, it's a necessity as part of the safety aspect.
I'm not disputing that.
Do not stop it, yeah, look, again, it does come at a cost, unfortunately, yeah.
No, all I'm saying here is that when he was there during the week, we had stoplights, and that was fine. But he decided to work on the Friday, and the stoplights weren't being provided for him. So 2 lollipop people were provided, and the cost of those lollipop lights, people must be a lot more cost than our stoplights.
Again, through the chair, the regulations have changed with regard to traffic control and work and construction sites. You do have to have physical traffic controllers now. You can't just work under traffic lights. That's the unfortunate change.
So the week prior to the Friday, he was in breach then.
I can't talk, I'm not quite
Well, it
sure.
was under the traffic control lights, the traffic control stop and go was further down where the grader was.
Yeah, I'll look again, I can't comment. I don't
Okay,
know.
all right.
But I'll
Thank
take-
you.
Take your point.
Anyone else? The motion, all in favour? Passed unanimously. Corporate services, the recommendation is that item 14.4 is received as information. Who seconded, Councillor Hayden? Councillor Chamber, Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I'm happy to move the recommendation to receive this report. There's been a lot going on with cyber security, the internet, home improvement review, the donation presentation. I got feedback last night, and Leon, the president of BSCA, wanted to pass on his thanks because he totally enjoyed it. It's the first time he'd been to one, and he really enjoyed attending and enjoyed having a look through the library.
With his guide,
Sorry?
with his guide.
Yes, with his guide. The Black Springs Hall Committee was cancelled last month, and we're probably only going to have a small committee for the next meeting as well. But even so, we still do need to have that meeting. End of year spectacular. A lot of people within the community are looking forward to that. And for youth council as well, I did run into a couple of young people today. They've got a job at the supermarket, and they wanted to attend youth council meetings, so they're going to look at their roster and see if they can't go down to the library and meet up as well. So I told them that youth council is very important for them to have some input as well, so they're looking forward to doing that. The Oban Library and Community Centre, people in the community have been raving about it. They're absolutely thrilled with it. The chess club has been going fantastic, people attending that. All the little things that are happening, the youth space, parents are just talking about how brilliant it is, and when the homework club's on as well, they're very happy with that. So it's nothing but positive coming out of that, so I just thought I'd let you know.
I'm happy to second it, and it is great to see. I think the library really is the outstanding new sort of location in town, and it really is providing a lot of enjoyment to many people across the community, and particularly the youth space. I think it's fantastic, and yeah, that they're getting to use it. They didn't really have a space before. It's part of the reason that it was incorporated into it, and they seem to have embraced it quite quickly. Good work.
Anyone else? Put the motion, all in favour? Motion's passed. Investments. Recommendation is that report item 14.5 is received with information. Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy to move this recommendation. I do have a couple of questions in relation. I note that light blue are obviously the STP. So that's the STP monies that we have received. Notably, we've also taken a loan of 3 million. So is that the monies we've received as grant funds and the 3 million that we've then invested? Are we getting more in interest now than we've actually got as a borrowing cost?
Through the chair, yeah, particularly the STP, as you said, the 3 mil there is apportioned out and the interest is returned. That is, I can't give you the exact numbers off the top of my head, but it is returning quite close to our loan repayments and the requirements of that loan. And then you also see how we actually invest some of the civil funds. So the team are working actually to apportion the interest across all the different funds, and that is something that will be highlighted as we go forward with this report as well.
What I'd like to see is the amount we're getting from, we've got grant funds, and obviously we've got the 3 million that we've drawn down on our loan for the SPP, which obviously hasn't been paid out yet. I think we've drawn down some of it, haven't we? I can't remember. None of it, no, because we've been using grant. So it'd be interesting to see, you know, what our interest rate is for the borrowing. I'm assuming that was locked in compared to now, say, we're earning let's say our average interest rate's about 4.48%. Whether we're actually totally covering our interest on the 3 million from the 3 million investment, and if not, if we were covering it with the other funds from the grant invested, so that we're actually in a better than neutral position. That's my first question. It'd be interesting to know that. Maitland Mutual Limited, that's a form of building society, is it?
Yeah, through the chair it is, yes.
And it's obviously appropriately rated. I note, and it's very good, that the 90-day bank bill swap rate is 4.26%, and our average interest achieved is 4.48%, which is excellent. If I do a quick addition of the interest we've earned in the month of July, I get up with all those figures, I get up to 156,000. Is that about right? If you add the 56,848, the 83,141, the 7,000 and the 10,000, because where it talks about year to date, I'm assuming that's the 31st of July for all those, and we've only had 1 month.
That's correct.
So we're earning 156,000 approximately a month on just interest
Through the
on the
chair.
23 million or 28.
Through the chair, that's correct, yes, the accrual is yet to be received, but that's how we could recognise that income.
That's excellent. I'm more than happy, and I'm very pleased to see that our that side of our investment seems to be moving appropriately in a positive direction.
I'm happy to second the report, and I'm actually really pleased that the Reserve Bank hasn't given another increase to the percentages. Oh my God, I've lost them. I'm tired.
Not long.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm pleased with that and everything's flowing along.
Anyone else? Put the motion all in favour? Motion's passed.
Interest rates.
Grants updates, item 14.6, the recommendations, item 14.6 is received as information. Councillor McKevin and Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy to move this. I would ask, probably it's the technical, through you to the Technical Services Director, what implications does this delay in the block grant and repair grant for 23-24 have on our position?
Through the chair, nothing at this particular point in time, but it is anticipated that Transport are going to announce these repair program grants in the very coming weeks, I believe.
Okay, so that it's only a minor deferment, not a long term, we're hoping.
No, that's right.
Because we've budgeted, when did we budget for this to be received? July, August, wasn't it?
Look, through the chair, again, this is something that we hope to have this financial year, of course, but again, depending on state government and their budget estimates and their budget hand downs, but this is a grant fund that is actually being assessed, and so it's not untypical. It has to be spent within the 23-24 financial year. So.
That's right, so the sooner we get the better.
Yep.
And do we have, noting that this is for July, do we have any update on the Betterment Fund announcement?
So the chair, we made some inquiries direct to the Grant Authority about the status of that. They indicated that, as a report, that they couldn't give us any individual feedback, but they are not far away from announcing the outcomes of those applications. So we're expecting that within the next few weeks.
The other question I had was on the bottom of page 266, the Strengthening Rural Communities Prepare and Recover program. This is open to communities, and have we made our communities well aware of this for purposes of getting their applications in, noting it's 31st of August?
Through the chair, it's something we've looked at internally in council. It's not something we've actively promoted, but I have seen this widely promoted through the FRRR, but happy to do a very quick blast out to the community groups and that.
So it has to be a community, I mean, it can be council or a community group make the application?
I believe that community organisations can apply.
Yeah, I think we should go out to it. So for instance, Barriga, would they, I don't know. Can we argue that the flooding of the Barriga Hall, for instance, was a climate related impact?
Possibly through the chair. I mean, we have community groups have contacts
Right.
that are.
It is definitely a climate related impact.
You're living in Hobart.
Yeah, that's following the grant guidelines again, but we know community groups are aware of it. We've written support letters for different groups for this, for the FRRR. So if there are other associations, I'm happy to touch base with them first thing tomorrow and just remind them if they're not aware and indicate that we're happy to help.
Thank you very much. That's all I have to say, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy to move this.
Yeah, on page 266, the Tablelands Way, we've got the 425,000 money from the grant. So does that mean we've done more in the 22-23 year than what we anticipate to do this financial year and what we've done the previous financial year? I thought the fund was about 10 grand, wasn't it? The $10 million for the Tablelands Way project?
Yeah, I know.
Our component was seven.
Yes, it's about, so through the chair, it's a $15 million grant across 3 councils.
Yep.
What that report is indicating is that claiming of that grant is done on a retrospective basis. So every time we do a section or complete a milestone, we will supply the report, and then so we've highlighted through this when we actually get that funding. So generally the claims are around about 400, 500 each time we claim on a milestone.
So that's a combined thing, so we've received that in total?
That's just a claim that's been approved during the month of July for that project.
From the total project?
Yes. Yeah, that's
Since we
right.
started? Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One quick question on the table on page 266. Just on the sewer treatment plant, it seems to be, is it the same thing listed twice? That everything, the fourth last line and the last line, everything looks to be the same, except one date is 19th of May and one is the 1st of August. And I'm just curious what the story is there.
No, that's absolutely, Councillor Tucker. There's a state and a federal grant, very similarly named. Timing very similar as well. One's a growing regional economies fund and one's a growing regions program. The growing regions being a federal grant.
So in total, we're applying for 6.1 million.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Corporate Services Director. Matt, could you just tell me a tiny bit more about the Elsa Dixon Aboriginal Employment Grant?
Yeah, through the chair, it's something we received a few weeks ago and something we're looking to potentially pursue within, in conjunction with HR and our workforce management strategies. So I don't have any firm pathway forward for that just yet, but it's something we're looking to pursue.
Do we have candidates?
No,
We don't know yet.
Not yet.
that should be something that should be left for the Indigenous in the very remote communities. I could have went under that for my study, but I didn't.
Yeah, so it's something we are looking to pursue, and if there's an opportunity there. So.
Mr. Mayor, Katie.
Councillor Graham,
On mute.
you're on mute.
Mute.
Mute. You're on mute. Cody.
Now I'm right. Elsa Dixon do a lot of school-based traineeships and apprenticeships. So that's another avenue to look for employees. And I know the council's used school-based trainees before. So school could probably help with that.
All right, anyone else? Anything to add? Motion, all those in favour? Passed. Item 14.7, water and sewer plant. Councillor McKinnon. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKinnon.
I'm more than happy to move this forward. There are a couple of questions. Page 270, paragraph commences despite. I was a little, I didn't quite understand this. It says despite the adjustments and changes, the quality of treated town articulation water continued to be tested daily and divinity colour and iron manganese parameters extremely low. So does that mean, the sentence doesn't seem to make sense, does that mean that the quality of the water is still satisfactory? I think that some words missing.
Previously had created a bit more stability in the raw water quality, but however, despite that, our quality in production has been fine.
Okay.
The water we received from the dam is pretty average.
Yeah, but our plant's already close. So the water contemplated in the second paragraph of the pump stations, was that scheduled work or non-scheduled work? And was it scheduled or non-scheduled work that arose as a result of it? So there was something blocking wrong pipeline. And that would have been quite a costly exercise. That's all I have.
Yes, I'm happy to second the report, and after last month's brilliant report with our oxygen pump one, we then come along to the next month and we have an issue with pump one. And our lovely review journal over there who wrote all about it, and then the community don't do that. Damn it, anyway. We're happy to second that.
All right, anyone else? Motion in favour? Status of council resolution. Recommendations for 14A receives this information. Who? I can't get them either. Oh, Anthony. Councillor McKinnon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note that item on page 272, which is probably the easiest way to refer to it. We met with our land representative in June to finalise the draft, but then the comment on the 9th of August, the staff have sort of commented too far. Have they sort of commented to Crown Land, or the meeting, or have they sort of commented internally to go back to Crown Land? As a result of the meeting, they made them orally, but then it's writing. Okay. And I take it next item, three, we don't understand what's happening with this housing fund bill, or we don't really understand.
Sure, Richie, or on, I understand back on the agenda.
So we have the whole book, get that.
It shouldn't stop us.
you've obviously commented on the next item. And the Drees Road one, which is top of page 277. That's still in progress, it's still, has been suspended.
Yeah, so as we covered, we're trying to get as a staff training process for this, together with the another one. And that's just trying to coordinate that with the issue. The two ones that we have in progress are now, so it's not serious in nature, so it's just a matter of coordinating that.
No, I do remember you said you'd be using staff training. Okay, and I know when I think that's coming up now, page 279, on five side of ready, lost people, being redesigned, that was good, comment I've asked you about before. Borrowing costs, what about that agree?
Very frustrating. Very frustrating.
So, that puts us in a difficult position.
As the delays been happening, obviously, councillor, time has forced us to find new ways of reducing that line. We are chasing every fortnight to anyone who will listen. An email was sent earlier this week that it's on the desk and ready to be sent, but we've heard that over the last 3 council meetings that we've asked this, the question's been asked.
So is it something we should be raising at the JO with the relevant minister?
We can probably do that on next Friday.
That's what I'm suggesting, should we be actioning us to raise that? Yes.
You don't even persist, yes.
Right, well, maybe we could note that.
As long as it's done nicely,
I know, absolutely. I'm just thinking that's probably, appropriate. Okay, what, next week, full committee. That's all I have. Thank you.
Most of it. Technical director, I just wanted to get an update on the curbside garbage collection tender. Where are we at?
the tender's still being prepared at this stage. Hasn't quite gone out yet, but happy to have that out.
Well, I actually read it.
Motion all in favour? There's no urgent business. We'll now go to closed session. The recommendations of council consider the following matters that are contained as to be considered to be of an urgent nature, requiring, sorry, my mistake. In accordance with Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government Act General Regulation 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following business is of a kind as referred to in section 10A2 of the Act and should be dealt with as part of the meeting closed to the media and the public. Could you please stop recording, Mr. Swinnell? And good afternoon, everyone. It's 9:21 PM. We've just come out of closed session. And during closed session, there was one matter, a land matter, item 16.1. And council resolved that council retain the existing stage 2 layout for the Oberon Industrial Estate. At 9:21, I'll now close this meeting. The next meeting will be held at 5:30 PM on September 19. Thank you very much for those who attended, and thank you very much, councillors. Good night.